Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Neoma Finn, Steve Wildman Wonderous, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. Joining me tonight is my partner in crime, Neoma Finn from the Dixie Cryptid and What If It's True podcast. Steve is off tonight. He has, unfortunately, has to work his real job, so the one that pays the bills. So we won't have Steve with us tonight, but he'll be back with us on Saturday night. And if you guys haven't seen the alert, the Saturday night we will be having a evening with Jonathan Mayberry, the many times New York Times bestseller, 5-time Bram Stoker Award winner, writes just about every genre, Jonathan Mayberry. So that's going to be a great show. But tonight's going to be an awesome show as well. Naomi and I are going to be delving into local legends from the Ozarks and talking about creepy stories from way back when and even modern day. Naomi, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. I had nobody to listen anyway.
Yeah. I have someone to listen, but he just tells me to stop it. Stop it now.
Pretty much the same. My wife just rolls her eyes.
Yeah. Oh, well. So what's new and improved in your world?
Well, as I see he's in the chat room. Hey, Jared, my buddy Jared George. Some of you probably saw when I had the updated image, but my T-shirt arrived today.
Wow.
My buddy Jared drew that. Pretty freaking awesome. I'll see if I can get the green screen back in place to cover up all the junk in my room. There we go.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
I love this shirt.
I do too. That is really cool.
We might have to see about ordering a new one.
Yeah, there you go. Get me and Steve one and we'll be in uniform.
There we go. Well, we ought to get the new DAX shirts.
No, that's okay.
Have you seen them?
Oh,
Josh did a wonderful job on them.
Really? I haven't seen them.
Oh, yeah. He created some new ones. Let me see if I can grab one of the images. Josh is in the audience. Josh, do you have any of the images handy? If not, then I will try to grab them myself. Shouldn't take but a second, actually.
Okay.
Well, I'm almost there. There we are. All right, let me share the screen real quick. There's the... right there.
Oof. Yeah.
I like them.
Good for you. I don't want one.
You don't want one?
No.
Why not?
I don't want my ugly face on a T-shirt.
Those are perfect for wearing to conventions.
You wear them, and if somebody recognizes me as Conchetta Farrell, that's how I'll sign my name. And I'll offer to clean their house if they live in Malibu.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well,
anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Neoma and I were discussing the possibilities for the show tonight, and she came up with the idea of just doing creepy stories from around the Ozarks, which I thought was a great idea. Some of these we might have touched on a little bit before in previous episodes, but a lot of these are something you probably never heard unless you're from the Ozarks. But there's a lot of creepy crap has happened in the Ozarks over the last few hundred years. and dating back before settlers got in this area, when it was just Native American. Some of it's pretty old. Tales of things like the Ozarks howler, or the
weird lights.
Weird lights, the Joplin, what they call the Joplin spook light. It's this disembodied light that can still be seen today, just kind of floating through the woods. They tried to explain it as swamp gas, but there ain't no swamps around Joplin, Missouri. I don't know if y'all been down that way, but we don't get a whole lot of swamps here in Missouri, unless the Mississippi floods, and then it's only swampy for a little while.
I actually picked another set of lights, the Girdon light.
Ooh.
Yeah, which has a true life murder mystery around it. So that's going to be fun. And what else do I have? I'm also going to do one on a certain cryptid.
Oh boy.
And then a haunted house. And of course, I have to do Rawhead and Bloody Bones, because that's my favorite.
Absolutely. We are starting to get a lot of comments in the chat room. Josh Dalton says, Neoma, what are you saying? You're good for scarecrow material?
That's right. I am.
And then RJ says, there's Josh.
Yeah.
Sal says, good evening, Alyssa. Bigfoot Anon says, what's up, DA? Had a great time on the Tennessee Squatch Out. Ooh, I wish I could have gone to that. You have to send me an email telling me about it. I would love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Robert Shaw says, which cryptid?
Oh, to me?
Yeah.
Cryptid called the Blue Man.
There we go. Werewolf says, still creepy stuff in the Ozarks. There definitely is.
Absolutely.
Well, you want to just jump right in this with both feet, or?
Sure. You want to go first, or you want me to?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, what should I do first, do you think? Ooh, I just about knocked my table over.
Dealer's choice.
Okay. Well, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You know what? I really like this Girdon light thing. I think I'm going to start with that. And where is my... There we go. Okay.
Thank you, Lorene.
This is going to be fun because I have limited screens out here, and I'm going to have to work all off of one screen.
Okay. Well, that little town of Girdon's down almost to Fouke, Arkansas. That's pretty far down there.
Yes, it's down by Arkadelphia, I believe, Clark County. So is it Girdon, not Girdon? Is that how it's said?
I don't know. I'm guessing. I've never been there.
Well, I've been saying Girdon, so forgive me if I get it wrong.
Oh, ain't offending nobody but the people from there, I'm sure.
Girdon is a small town situated in Clark County in the southwest portion of Arkansas, surrounded by thick forests and located on the eastern edge of the Ouachita Mountains. And yes, it is Ouachita, DA.
Okay.
I was Ouachita guessing. Baptist College, so.
I was guessing. I'd never been there, so I was guessing how it was pronounced.
That's all right. It was an ideal place for a railroad town because of the abundance of timber used to build the rail lines. It is not now, nor has it ever been, a big town. The population today is around 2,000 souls. One soul in particular seems to have hung around for quite a while. I'm sorry, I keep bumping this. And when I did that, I lost my... William McLean was a foreman with the Missouri Pacific Railroad back in 1931. It was the height of the Great Depression and people were starving. Work was scarce, and for those who could get it, the companies often couldn't offer enough hours to earn a decent wage, and layoffs were common. As a result, foremen like McLean often had to deal with the disgruntled workers like a man named Louis McBride. On December 3rd, 1931, a freight train with 14 cars attached derailed southwest of the town. It was clear that it occurred as a direct result of tampering with the tracks. The authorities believed that the culprit's intent was to derail the Sunshine Special, a passenger train that normally traveled at speeds of 60 to 70 miles per hour. Will McLean believed that culprit to be Louis McBride. The two men had argued earlier because McBride had been laid off, and he believed he should have received seniority rights. McLean had disagreed. When the day after the derailment, McLean's wife alerted the city marshal that her husband had not come home the night before, he began going around town asking if anyone had seen the missing man. When he came across McBride, who was known to have worked for McLean, he noticed the man was acting suspiciously and took him in for questioning. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Every time I do that, I lose it. It wasn't long before McBride confessed. He took the marshal out to the site where he'd done murder. It was a gruesome scene. A trail of blood nearly a quarter of a mile long led from the tracks to the nearby swamps. There, lying on the ground, clearly having crawled the entire distance and still clutching a lantern in his dead hand, was the body of William McLean. He died as a result of several blows to the head from a shovel and a spike maul, both of which were found in the vicinity. It was never proven whether or not McBride had tampered with the railroad tracks or if he was just disgruntled by his layoff. It didn't matter. And I lost it again. He'd confessed to the murder, and he'd led the authorities to the body. He was sentenced to death and sent to the electric chair on July 8, 1932. Shortly after McBride's execution, reports of a strange light along that 4-mile stretch of railroad track began pouring in. It was described as being either yellowish or bluish and roughly the size of a medicine ball. Well, goodness me. So sorry, guys. It hovers just above the tracks, often disappearing as it is approached, then reappearing behind those walking the tracks, hoping to see it and discover its source. There are those who say it is Will McLean's disembodied spirit, walking those tracks with his lantern in hand. Others claim another railroad worker who fell in the path of an oncoming train is the origin of the light. He was decapitated, and they say he is searching for his head. More scientific minds look to swamp gas, or possibly it is a piezoelectric effect caused by the rich veins of quartz crystals along the New Madrid Fault that runs through that region. Some dismiss the lights as reflections of car lights from a nearby highway, despite the fact that the road did not exist until decades after the first sightings, not to mention a large hill that separates it from the area. Also, the lights are seen frequently when the weather is not right for the swamp gas. Whatever it is, it has been seen and researched, documented, and debated for nearly 100 years with no definitive answer yet. Unsolved Mysteries even took a turn at presenting it in a 1994 episode. So if you're ever in the southwest Arkansas, near the town of Girdon, take a walk along the railroad tracks there. You'll find them tucked neatly between the swampy woods and an old cemetery. Maybe you'll meet the railroad foreman who was murdered, or the headless worker. Maybe you'll find a scientific answer for the phenomenon, or maybe you'll discover an explanation even more sinister.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a interesting story. I remember seeing it on Unsolved Mysteries many, many years ago, and it stuck with me all these years. There are several places with the ghost lights. There's up in Joplin. There's one in Texas. They always want to blame them on swamp gas, but the swamp gas only appears in certain weather.
Or will-o'-the-wisp.
Mm-hmm. And they certainly don't meet those criteria when it appears.
Yeah, the one down near Joplin, between Joplin and Neosho, it can be seen pretty much any time of the year.
Yeah, I actually
People
thought
have seen
about
it in
doing
the dead
that
of
one
winter.
too.
I'm sorry, what?
I actually thought about doing that one too, because I find the swamp gas or the mystery lights. I always find those really fascinating.
I think they're really cool.
Mhm.
Like those stories.
Me too. So that was my first one. What you got?
My first one is kind of a local legend. Years ago, when I was in high school, I was a member of a school club called the Ozark Caver Society, and we would go cave crawling just anywhere we could find a cave. And that's where I found Pig Demon Cave, but that's another story. We located one that was on land held by the Conservation Department, Missouri Conservation, called Smittle Cave. And I've recently done some research into Smittle Cave, but the story that the Missouri Department of Conservation is telling on their website is drastically different from the version we heard when I was a teenager. And well, I'll tell. I'll kind of read kind of what the Missouri Conservation now publicly says because they own the land and the surrounding land around the caves. There is actually more than one cave, but the main one is called Smittle Cave. It's a big cave, and then I'll tell the version that we were told, and let you guys decide which you guys think is more likely. And I've got a couple pictures to go with it. One in particular. According to the Missouri Department of Conservation, the cave was closed due to a disease and endangered bats. It also says that the cave and the land around it was donated to the state. That is not at all the story I heard. Missouri Conservation, when they got wind that that cave was there, they seized the land from the Smittle family and uprooted them from their property. It was a working farm. And it always struck us as weird because you had to have special permission from the Missouri Department of Conservation to get in there, and I can drive you right to it. But supposedly now it's very changed from when I was there. One last time I was there, which was probably right after I got out of high school. But you still have to get special permission to get in there, and then they'll only allow you in there at certain times of the year, very specific times, oddly specific times of the year. But the thing is this is a Missouri limestone cave, and it goes deep. And their reasoning for seizing the land was because of these endangered bats, which just always struck me as odd because nobody that I in any of the caver groups I've ever been part of gave really two craps about the bats. We went in to see the rock formations, and generally when we found bats, we just stayed clear of them and didn't bother them and kept crawling. Only time we ever disturbed the bats is when they were low hanging low enough where we had to shimmy to get past them. So the story about them, worrying about the bats, didn't hold a lot of water. But then after I found out about the cave and how they'd stripped it from it, this was about when I was about 16 or 17. I had my old beat up pickup truck, and I would just fill up the tank, and it was south of Lebanon. I believe it's out in I can't remember which county it's in. Neoma, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, my internet's already acting crazy, and it's not even 11 o'clock yet.
Oh, well, let's hope it sticks around.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be suddenly be looking, blinking at the camera, going, uh-oh. But I started going out there. I had a friend that lived out past that way anyway, so I'd go pick him up, and we would drive out there by Smittle Cave, and I started going to the surrounding farms and talking to people. And a lot of them had stories of strange, upright animals that would make off with farm animals. And that many times they had tried to track it, and the tracks always led them back to that cave that now is in the hands of the Missouri Department of Conservation. But there's also been a lot of weird sightings for miles around that because there's a lot of river bottoms in that area, and that cave runs deep. They don't even know how deep that cave goes. So I ask you, I'll put this question to y'all before I put the picture up. If the Department of Conservation owns all of the land and the gate access to the land, and they can shut that down, and they can go in there and patrol, and all they'd have to say is, if you're caught in this cave, it's up to 10 years in prison plus X number of $1,000 fine. People are going to stay the hell out of the cave, correct? Nobody wants to go to prison for going into a cave.
No.
Then why exactly does it need this?
Well, it's obviously keeping something in as well.
Yeah. that cave is the entrance is big enough to drive a vehicle in, yet they have welded steel reinforced bars all the way across, and that's tall. I mean, I've been up to that gate, and I come up to about probably the sixth or seventh rung on that steel down at the bottom. That's probably 15, 20 feet tall.
Wow.
It seems a little extreme to just keep people from going and messing with bats. The only way to get into it is over just outside of the frame on this picture to the left is a little bitty gate with a heavy duty padlock on that conservation has to come out and open for you. And they only allow you so much time in the cave. I've actually been in the cave twice, but you've got to jump through some pretty serious hoops to get in there. And it's just always struck me as odd that surrounding farms were having farm animals go missing. And supposedly a couple of people went missing as well, although I never was able to confirm that. I just heard that from some of the locals. And they were tracking the tracks and bones of their animals back to this cave. Then the Missouri Department of Conservation swoops in and shuts it down, kicks the Smittles off their land, and does this to get to the cave. So it just, always struck me as kind of odd that would happen. And every time I've been out there, I've always had the distinct feeling I was being watched the entire time I was there. There's something deep in that cave that the Missouri Department of Conservation does not want you to either see or doesn't want you to it getting to you. But they went to great lengths to seal that cave entrance.
Wow.
And that's Smittle Cave.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I would love to get back in there. But like I said, it gets a little harder every year. Your window to get in there gets smaller. Than I think it's down to like about a week a year you can actually get in there.
Wow. So what do you think it is?
I've often thought that there were Bigfoot type creatures sheltering in that cave, because that's essentially what the locals in the area was describing as taking their livestock. Cool. Lenita Bryant says, "Where is that cave?" It's off South 5 Highway outside of Lebanon, Missouri. I could take you right to it, but like I'd have to. If you Google Smittle Cave, it'll show you where it's at. I believe I think it's in Webster County, but I could be wrong. It might be the wrong county. But it is in the middle of nowhere. The closest town of any real size is Lebanon, and it's probably 25 miles away. I think Grove Springs is fairly close, but again, Grove Springs ain't much more than a poke and plum town. You poke your head out the window and you plumb through it.
That's about half the towns down around that area. That's really fascinating. I want to go there now.
Me too. I want to go back. I think I may drive up there one of these weekends now that fall's getting here, and it'll be a little cooler and a little less bugs. And go up there and see if I can at least get up to the cave and shoot some video. I know I'm not with my back and me walking with a cane. Ain't no way I'm going to be going cave crawling anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I could probably hobble my way down the trail to the mouth of that cave and shoot some video.
Stick a camera through the bars, maybe, and the lens.
Oh, incidentally, I ordered something from Amazon. It's supposed to be here by tomorrow evening. So it would be perfect to take down there. It's one of those attachments that fits on the back of your cell phone and locks in place and puts a telephoto lens over your camera.
Ooh, cool.
It's like supposed to be up to 100 magnifications. So I'm going to get me some good shots.
Yeah, you are.
I could sit across a bay in a blind and watch and wait for something to come out along a riverbank or something. Yeah, I might be able to get some really good shots. That'd be a great one to take down to Joe Bald and over to the other campground, Coombs Ferry. I might be able to get across from Coombs Ferry and shoot across into it. Ooh, that's a good idea. I'm glad I thought of that. I'm going to go try that thing out this weekend.
I can't help but think about the two photographers up in Alaska taking pictures of the bear. You know that story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't plan on getting
a really good picture. Yeah, nobody ever plans on getting eaten. It's not like I wake up this morning and say, I'm going to go get myself killed by a Bigfoot. Yet it happens.
That's true, but they'll find what's left of my body on top of a pile of expended brass. I can promise you that.
As long as they find the camera, I don't care.
There you go. Don't break that new lens. It was pricey.
Yeah, there you go. Set it down. Don't drop it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read the messages or the comments, and I've
Yeah, I was
got
trying
my
to catch
screen
up
split
a
up,
little
and
bit.
I can't. Yeah. Oh, there's a cave in Germany like that. I wonder where that's at in Germany.
Werewolf 5674 says that's a big investment. I don't buy bats. I'm telling you. I mean, look. Let's bring that picture back up again real fast. That is just a crap ton of steel that goes 15, 20 feet up. I mean, it's a huge chunk of steel. And because of that upper deck that leans out, you can't climb over it. You got to be a better climber than me if you thought you could. And the gate that's just like human size you can walk through is up to the left, up to the left and off camera, and it only encompasses maybe a third of that entire span. So that the gate to get in there is human sized, a 6-foot gate, and maybe about a third of the way of the height of that thing. Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of steel. And it's heavily bracketed into the surrounding rock. They had to jackhammer that into the rock. So that was not an easy undertaking to put all that steel out there.
I wonder who the crew was that did that. And if they were looking in the cave thinking, what am I?
Yeah, this is for bats. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What the hell is out here?
You got to be a little batty to believe that. That's
Josh
insane.
Dalton says, how is the gate fence made and anchored to the ground? It's heavily welded together, and then they've like jackhammered holes into the surrounding rock and then concreted it into the rock. It would take a bulldozer to pull that thing out. And
they did it as quickly as they could, doing this constantly.
Yeah, no kidding. He says, have you checked to see someone had a security camera monitoring the cave? I have not. I will check the next time I get a chance to go up there. The last time I was there was probably 91, 92, somewhere in that area. It was before I got married. And I haven't been back because the Missouri Conservation has made it so difficult to get into the cave. And after I got married and started having kids, I kind of stopped doing cave crawling because my wife's like, you moron, you're not going to go get yourself stranded in a cave and leave me with these kids.
Take them with you. There you go.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
I wonder if I can get away with putting that logo on a t-shirt.
Might have to pay a little bit for the right, but you never know.
I might. Werewolf 5674 says, I believe that Bigfoot is a cave dweller. Lots of caves in Missouri. Yes, sir, there sure are. The Missouri limestone is riddled with caves.
I believe Dogman's a cave dweller too.
I think so too. I mean, it would be foolish not to take advantage of natural shelter.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I was out there, I'd be a cave dweller, I guess.
Northwoods Cryptid says the construction crew probably had a team of armed guards with them at the cave. I would guess at the time that was put on, when Missouri Conservation seized that land, there was about a 2-year period where nobody could get access to it. And the only reason we got any access to the cave at all is because one of our teachers was the sponsor of the Ozarks Cavers Society, and he had a lot of contacts with the Missouri Department of Conservation. So we got to take a small group of us in there. It was like for 1 week. We had a 1-week window in the fall, and it was once it was started turning cold. So we were only allowed to go so far back in the cave. Some really pretty flowstone back in there, but it's a really interesting cave, really neat place.
I don't know what it is about caves, but when I go in them, they make me nauseous. It's not it hasn't got anything to do with claustrophobia. There's something in the smell of caves that makes me sick to my stomach whenever I go in. That
damp earth smell?
I don't think so, because I love to garden and I love the smell of damp earth. But there's something that, and I can ask people if they smell it, and they're like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. But it always makes me very, very nauseous.
Josh says, any known caves near the lake in Joe Bald? I know there are a lot of caves down near Table Rock Lake, but I don't know if there are any close to Joe Bald. It'd be worth checking. I mean, I can ask around some of the guys I know that live down that way, see if they know of any that are in the area. But Missouri's riddled with them. I mean, the topography of Missouri is very, very cave riddled. I mean, hell, just not too far from Joe Bald, just probably 7 miles as the crow flies, is Silver Dollar City, and there's Marvel Cave right there, and it's massive. They don't even know how far back it goes.
I've been in Marvel Cave.
I've done the Marvel Cave tour many times, and when I was with security at Silver Dollar City, at night we would have to check and make sure nobody was going in there, because when they turn off the air handling equipment to blow air down in the cave, the air quality gets a little squiffy, and you don't want to be down in there.
Yeah, I can see that. But you remember the guy, I don't remember his name, but he came forward and gave a lot of information on Area 51, and he was supposedly a scientist that was assigned there. And he was considered a whistleblower, and then a lot of people said that he wasn't telling the truth. Do you remember that guy?
I think I do.
I can't think of his name to save my soul, but I remember when the first time I saw him on TV, the first thing I thought was he was the guy who gave us the tour of Marvel Cave, because they were dead ringers for each other. But, 20
Bob
years
Lazar.
apart in age, but Bob Lazar, that's the one.
Sal just popped it into chat.
Yeah.
S. Dresden says, Dogmen are the hounds of God. They are not the enemy. Interesting theory, but I would beg to differ on that, simply because of so many accounts of attacks by dogmen against people, and a number of them which are fatal. And I can tell you from being in the LBL firsthand, I didn't feel like something was there protecting me. I felt like something was there hunting me.
Yeah.
Lanita says, I went in the underground sea and they turned the lights off. That wasn't funny. I bet not. There's another cave not too far from that one that we went to that they called Rattlesnake Cave. And I said, why do you call it Rattlesnake Cave? They said, because you can only go there in the wintertime because the goddamn thing's full of rattlesnakes. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that can, would make sense, Rattlesnake Cave and all.
Lots of accounts of dogmen attacks.
I didn't get to read all of that. What was it?
Sorry. He says, Dogman is the enemy as the family of a 13-year-old boy that DOA in Kentucky.
Yeah. Was that the recent one? I wonder.
Probably. Richie, was that recently, or is that you talking about the one back in 82? Because that was a family of 4.
There was about a 13-year-old boy in Kentucky, and I think he was more in central Kentucky, who was the authorities said that it was a dog that dragged him up the hillside and killed him, but he was torn to pieces. And there are a lot of people that question whether or not it was just a dog.
Nick Valente posted something in the NADP Region 3 site recently about Dogman being suspected in a string of murders.
Really?
Yeah, I have not read the article completely, so I don't feel comfortable like giving my opinion on the article on the air. But it's something I want to get into. I just saw it earlier, just before I was coming on the air, and didn't have time to really go into it in detail.
So if
Robert
he's
Sharp
captured and convicted, who's going to strap him to the electric chair?
You have to give him a shock collar.
There you go.
Robert Sharp says not all dogmen are evil. Each group of dogmen are different. Yeah, that's kind of the theory I go along with in my Apex Predator books. The Ulonga dog Lala, what the Cherokee call the long dogs or dogmen are the more evil ones, and the Native American dog soldiers or the Hota Metaneo represent the good side. So they're good and bad in my stories. Cool. But a lot of the firsthand accounts that I've read of people that have actually seen dogmen, like saw them, step out of the woods, they always describe the eyes as feeling pure evil, and that always sticks with me. Richie says they said it was coyotes that killed him.
Oh,
A 13-year-old kid. Those are some pretty bold coyotes. As
yeah.
I mean, I've scared an entire pack of coyotes just by going. Ah!
When my kids were younger, we lived on a farm, and we were out behind the house, and the house was sort of situated on a ridge, and my kids were playing at one end of the yard, and there's a chicken coop between us, and then there was the house and the barn, and my husband was over at the barn, and I was right behind the house, and I looked down, and coming up from the ridge was a coyote, and it walked just as calm as could be right between me and my kids, which honestly, that freaked me out. I didn't like it being between me and my kids.
I wouldn't either.
And it just went, and I stood there and watched it. My husband was at the barn, so he went in and grabbed his gun, and I think it must have been sick because it came within about 10 feet of me.
That's rare for a coyote to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Dresden says, how many tigers or jaguars have merely shaken prey with fear and let them live to tell the tale? True, but there are lots of cases of tigers that confirm man-eaters too. And also had the case in Africa of those 2 lions they made the movie Ghost in the Darkness about, that were basically just serial killers. And then you've got that guy they called the Grizzly Man that went and lived among bears in Alaska.
Timothy Treadwell.
And took his girlfriend up there because he was convinced the bears had accepted him as one of his own and one of their own. And it didn't take but the one time that a bear that was particularly hungry turned and ate them both. So anytime you're dealing with wild animals, 9 times out of 10, if you encounter a bear in the wild, it's probably going to go its own way. But you run into that bear the one time when it's really hungry or getting ready to hibernate, suddenly you're on the menu. So I think it's situational. I wouldn't call bears good or bad. I wouldn't call them evil or good. It's they're true to their nature. And if it's hibernation time and they haven't put on enough weight, suddenly, 2-legged pork is back on the menu.
Yeah, those bears accepted him as food. At least one did.
Yeah. The only way he was coming out of there was as a grizzly bear bowel movement.
Yeah. I stumbled across the audio for that.
Yeah, that's pretty horrifying.
It is really hard to listen to. And of course I did, because that's who I am. But
yeah, I listened to it as well, but there was parts of it that were hard to listen to. But then again, I've watched a lot of video over the years in law enforcement of things that were particularly hard to listen to, but you still did it because you had to. Josh says that picture you have, if it's a Dogman, I think it is. It did not look friendly. No, it did not. It says Dogman, neither do I. Dresden says individualism, brother. You are correct, sir. Yeah, it's just like, a lot of people talk about how dangerous pit bulls are. I have got one, and I could walk up to him while he's eating and take food out of his mouth, and he's going to look at me like, "What'd you do that for, Dad?" Because he's the biggest goofball on the planet. But if you've raised any animal with cruelty and forced it to fight, it's going to be mean. It doesn't matter what kind of animal it is. But it's same thing with my little dog Harley. He's a big chicken, but if you walk up behind him and scare him, he might just bite you. Not because he's wanting to attack you, because you scared him. It just all depends on the situation with every animal. And if you're going to go out in the woods and look for cryptids or look for anything in particular, you're going to even go deer hunting, just be careful. Take a med kit and be prepared to defend yourself, because not everything out there looks at you as their buddy. Some of the stuff out there just might decide to make a meal out of you.
Just as an aside, sometimes people do just lose their good sense. I actually, as a child, had an almost phobic fear of chihuahuas. Because, I know, right? Big dogs had no effect on me, but I was actually terrified of chihuahuas because I was about 2 or 3 years old, and we'd gone to my mom's friend's house, and she raised them. She had about 8 of them. And she had one of those preformed steps leading into her house, which are never high enough. And I couldn't make the last step. So my mom picked me up and set me inside. And when she did I don't know if it was just one or multiple, but at least one of the chihuahuas attacked my leg. And as a result, I'm also not all that fond of rats because I associate the two.
They kind of look the same.
Yeah.
Richie says pit bulls are big mush. Marshall says our Patty is sweet. Only had her 8 days and she's 2 years old. I love the pit bulls. Everyone I've ever dealt with has just been a sweet little dog. Robert Sharp says don't deer hunt at night. Speaking of deer hunting, I just got a story from a buddy of mine, and this supposedly happened down north of Eureka Springs, Arkansas. He had a deer stand set up. And the deer stand was about 15 feet up a tree, a big oak tree. He went and set it up, went back to check on it, and something had pulled it down out of the tree and twisted it.
Wow.
I said, "What'd you do?" He says, "Well, I left it there, and I'm not going back."
If it likes its chair twisted, it can have it that way.
Yeah. He said, "So it was a pretty good indication that I wasn't supposed to be hunting there, and I took its advice."
Yeah, I don't want to be anybody's chew toy either.
If Chihuahuas were big dogs, you'd have to put them all down. You know, it's the funny thing. A Chihuahua who maybe weighs 2 pounds soaking wet thinks it's the most terrifying thing on 4 legs. But my my English Mastiff, who in his prime weighed about 185 pounds, was the biggest slobbering idiot you ever met. My boys used to lay on him and watch cartoons. I mean, he was just the biggest gentle giant. And he would play with you once in a while, and I'd throw a ball down the hallway, and he'd look at me, and he'd look back, and he'd boop, boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo. And he'd pick it up, and he'd boop, boop, come right back, and he'd give it to you like, all right, that was enough. I'm going to lay down now.
Chihuahuas have little man syndrome, though.
True.
They have to make up for their size.
Irene says, I've never seen a Dogman, but I was told they'll hunt you down and you will be no more. Yeah, if they want you, they're going to get you. There's a number of stories that came out of the LBL area. One in particular that I found pretty horrifying. It was a guy who went to bed one night, and his dog started going nuts. And so he got up to let the dog out. And when he went downstairs, he had a doggy door that led out off his kitchen door out into the backyard. And there was a Dogman head and arm through it trying to get into the house. And I was like, I bet that didn't end well. Apparently he unloaded at it and it jerked its head back through and took off. And the next morning he put big wooden screws and plywood over that doggy door. He was sealing that up.
I'd have sealed the entire door. I wouldn't have just stopped at the doggy side.
Replaced it with steel.
Absolutely. Reinforced steel door right there. Might have even had the entire house armored.
Do it know as well. He said, I had a pit bull called Barbara. She was a little baby girl. Now I have a Jack Russell called Finnegan, and he's a little bastard. I've heard that about Jack Russells. They're stubborn. They're smart dogs, but very, very stubborn and don't like to listen to you when you tell them to do something.
No, they expect you to listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Robert Sharp says, yeah, that Dogman was going for the dog food or the dog. Or possibly
dog
the owner.
Food, dog food, yeah.
Whatever it can reach. If you could sick your Chihuahua on Dogman, he would never come back. The Dogman or the Chihuahua?
The Dogman, probably.
It makes me think of that scene from Harry and the Hendersons when the dog's like jumping up and he goes, and grabs it and looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a Chihuahua could chase off a Dogman. I mean, I've gotten over it as an adult, but when I was a kid, you could bring around the biggest, meanest looking dog on the planet. It wouldn't bother me. Somebody walk up with a Chihuahua and I was done. And my dad's mother, the one that I told you I'm looking more like every day, she had Chihuahuas. I don't know how many she had because they were all named Cricket, and I never could figure out when one ended and the new one began. But she had Chihuahuas, and I just was not into that at all.
I had a buddy, just a big redneck buddy of mine, and he's a farm kid. And when he got married, his wife wanted to live in town, so he He said, "Well, since I'm living in a neighborhood now, I want to do as much to annoy my neighbors as possible." I'm like, "What'd you do?" He's like, "I named my dog Biscuit." I'm like, "Okay, what's so bad about that?" He goes, "Oh, 2 o'clock in the morning, I like to go out on the porch, back porch, and yell, 'Biscuit, come on in the house.'"
Oh, that's funny.
I'm like, I can see you doing that, you big idiot.
Yeah.
Marshall says, "DA, why have dogmen become such a popular subject? 2 years ago, I'd never heard of one. I've heard of them for a long time, but I have not been researching into them as much as I have had Bigfoot. But the thing is dogman sightings are on the rise. And it's not just in areas like around LBL, it's all across the country. It's one of the cryptids that I think before it might have been much more reclusive, but either it's getting bolder or we're encroaching more onto its territory. But dogman sightings are one of the fastest growing number of cryptid sightings that are currently being reported.
I think I first heard of Dogman around 2014, and I remember when I was listening to the show and they were talking about it. First of all, I was like, "Nuh-uh, no," and to this day, I'm still "Nuh-uh, no," because it scares me so much. But the interesting thing was they were determining that Dogman was something that was within 100 miles of the Mississippi, up and down, either way. And now, of course, we know people have sightings all over. But I remember thinking I got to move because I lived by the Mississippi at the time.
When I first started hearing about the Gugway, I heard primarily they had been seen like in the Texas Big Thicket area and down into Louisiana, the heavy swamp areas. But what I was reading here most recently is a lot of the sightings are pretty much all along the Mississippi and Missouri River valleys.
Yeah.
They've been following the big
move.
Yeah, that's I'll take on a Dogman before I will a Gugway. Those things scare the crap out of me.
I don't want to take on either one. Thank you very much. I'm good with that.
Marshall sort of says, "So I need to pack my AK all the time." I would say if you're going to go out into the woods, and even if you're just hunting, not cryptid hunting, but if you're going to spend any time doing any cryptid hunting, I would recommend you carry two things above and beyond whatever hunting equipment you want to search for cryptids. I recommend a firearm and a medical kit. Simply because those are the two things you hope you don't need, but if you need it and you don't have it, you may never need it again.
And you'll feel really bad if you hurt that Dogman and you don't have a medical kit to help it out.
Give it a sucking chest wound and you can treat it.
Yeah. And then it'll be your friend for life.
Do It Noel's Way says, when are getting more and more reports of dogmen all the time here in the UK? I think the dogmen. Has someone posted something in one of the groups I'm in earlier about whether or not we thought dogmen were an experiment that the government had let loose, and I don't think so. I think they've been around far longer. I think dogmen are why there is the werewolf legends, why they're so prevalent. And I think that the reason we're seeing more and more, even in the UK, is I think they're not only are we getting more and more into their territory, but we're seeing this in big cats like mountain lions and in grizzly bears. Hell, we're seeing it in black bears because we're having black bears coming into Springfield, the town I live in. It's the third largest city in the state of Missouri. We've got black bears coming into here, and it's when you count the bedroom communities around us, we're pushing 500,000 people, and we got black bears in town. So I think one of two things are happening. Either they are finding an easier food source, which is a bad thing when you've got an animal that's decided that everything around you is now their food source. And the other possibility is they're losing their fear of us, which is even more dangerous.
And I think that they have a lot of reason to lose their fear of us, because if they don't, we're going to take over their territory and they'll be extinct anyway.
Exactly. Robert says dogmen have been around since Adam and Eve times. Yeah, the Bible talks about dog-headed creatures, the lion men of Judah. There's a number of references to animal-headed creatures in the Bible. And look at ancient Egypt, the god Anubis. Hell, all of the Egyptian gods were some form of an animal with an animal head on a human body. Who's
The
to say those
Greeks,
aren't out there as well? I mean, we really don't know.
the Greeks also talked about an island of dog-headed
King
people.
Lycos,
So that's where,
lycanthropy comes from.
right. Thank you. My mind just went totally dead on that one.
Oh, that's okay. That's what I'm here for.
Oh, okay, good.
You can
Here, let me just go ahead and give myself a little shock treatment.
Richie says fallen angels. There's a large school of thought that thinks Bigfoot type creatures and even possibly dogmen are Nephilim. And I'm not going to say whether I think they are or not. I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made there that they could be. But I don't know about the religious qualities of it, but even the Norse talked about the Ulfhednar, the wolf warriors who would go absolutely berserk in battle, and no blade would slow them down or hurt them. The Ulfhednar and there were the bear and the wolf berserkers, and I can't remember the name for the bear off the top of my head. That's losing my mind, apparently.
Yeah, you need a little shock treatment too.
Yeah, well, I'll have to take a shot of coffee. Todd Hunter says, what's the longest sighting if a dogman? Usually just seconds. Most sightings take place in just a matter of seconds. But there have been a number that, they got good solid views of for several minutes. And if you guys were joining us on Saturday night when we were talking to Gary Anderson, Gary, his Bigfoot encounter, he had a camera in his hand, and the panic set in. He didn't think anything about it. I'm telling you, if I rounded a corner of the house and saw a dogman, probably the last thing going to go through my mind is to get my cell phone out and get a picture of it. Now, I'm just being absolutely realistic on that. I don't think I'll have the wit about me to take a picture. Go for a gun maybe, but not go for a picture.
Back in the 50s or 60s, and I'm not sure which, there was a night watchman at a factory who got some pretty interesting photos of a dogman that he ended up turning into one of those sort of an EC type magazine. I think it may even have been one of Warden's magazines. And the picture's still around. His son actually dug it up and put it on the internet. But his sighting was certainly more than a few seconds. He had time to react and to get out. He had time to react and to get out the camera and to take the pictures. And
well, he had better presence of mind than I probably would have.
Oh, me too.
When I was in LBL, the only way I would have gotten decent footage of one is if it appeared while I was already filming. And I could have got the camera turned around, or if it appeared, like stepped out into camera, because I guarantee you it would have been the camera I was going for if one stepped out of the woods close to me.
If I'd been holding the camera, there would have been a camera suspended in midair at that moment, I'm pretty sure. Kind of a cartoonish type, just kind of spinning around and dropping to the ground where I used to be. When Pompeii did what they did to the Jews, God cursed Pompeii.
I thought Pompeii was a volcano.
That's where there was a volcano, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you?
Oh no, I was talking about the berserkers, the bear warriors and the wolf warriors. The Vindel or the Grindel were from
Beowulf.
From Beowulf. But I from the descriptions in Beowulf, I think the Vindel were probably a Bigfoot type creature, probably a Gugway, because they were known human eaters, and they always took the heads.
Well,
Doing Noel's Way says the werewolf legends of Europe seem to be morphing into dogman sightings of the U.S. Seem to be the same thing, but just a different way of explaining them. And whether or not they can shift forms is up for debate. I mean, we don't know. It is possible that, that lycanthropy, as originally stated in the old myths, may actually be a legitimate thing. We don't know until we've got one to study. we'll probably never know. But I don't know that I'm going to be the one to bring down a Dogman. I don't even know that I want to try. The only way I will try is if it's, good old butt saving fear. Oh, Pompeii was it was the city of Pompeii. That's right. The volcano was Vesuvius. Absolutely correct. Sorry about that. My history was bad there.
Yeah, I did that. That's my bad. Oh, well. My history isn't all that clear anymore anyway.
Can't say that I blame you. Well, Neoma, do you want to go on to your next story, or do you want to keep talking about what we've the conversation we've kicked off in the chat room?
Well, I don't want to ruin the flow of the conversation. If people are wanting to talk about Dogman, by all means, let's
Marshall
let's
says
keep
Denise
going.
Vesuvius is coming back to life. That's not good.
Yeah.
Irene says they named a city after him. The volcano was there, Mount Vesuvius. Well, that would be bad if that one came back. Well, look how much damage that Mount St. Helens did when it erupted.
Yeah. There are quite a few volcanoes that are awakening right now.
Mm-hmm. And if they said if the caldera that's beneath the Yellowstone ever went off, you could pretty much kiss the United States goodbye. It's a massive super volcano.
Yeah. Stephen Colbert the other night said it's just like in the end times, or as we now call it, the times.
the current times. That's funny. Northwoods Cryptid says, DA, when you get your Cryptid 1 vehicle, we'll have a 50 caliber machine gun mounted on it. That would be pretty freaking cool, but I would just be happy to have a really good off-road equipped vehicle so I could get back into some really remote places and do some filming. Like I said, I'm not interested in bringing one down. I don't want to prove anything to science. I know what I know. People that have had sightings know what they know. They've experienced what they've experienced, and nobody's ever gonna convince them that that they haven't. I don't need science to tell me it exists. And having said that, I don't have any plans of going out and proving it. The only way I'm going to bring a body in is if it's draped across the hood of my truck, because that's where it fell when I was trying to get away.
Just try to keep in mind that if I'm there and you're trying to get away, don't take me out and leave me draped across the hood of your truck because you panicked and hit me.
I won't do that. I'll make sure you're in the car first.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm going to be attached to a net. That's all there is to it. She's the only one smart enough to stay in the truck to begin with.
Robert Sharp says Yellowstone is the biggest super volcano in the world. I believe you're right. I think that's what I remember reading, and I watched a Discovery special on the caldera. Marshall Ciotta says DA wants to film from inside the truck. No, not really. I will get out and get into the thick of things, but I need a good four-wheel drive vehicle to get me back to some of these places so I can film, because my days of backpacking in are probably over.
No Valley of Headless Men for you.
Well, I wouldn't say no. Josh, I think you're probably right. I think Dogman probably dates back. In fact, I have a theory that's, it's just my theory. I really have nothing to back it up other than anecdotal evidence and sighting reports. But a lot of people have reported when they saw Dogman on all fours that before it stood up, they heard a popping sound. And when they described Dogman's hands, they described it as looking very much like a raccoon's hands, like having extra joints in it that we don't normally have in our hands. To me, it almost sounds like the structure of the hand is able to morph from a paw to a hand upon need. And when it goes into all fours, it's actually like a paw, like it just crushes the hands back up into a paw. And when it stands up, it releases the fingers, and that makes the popping sound. If that's the case, I'm wondering if Dogman might be an evolutionary offshoot of direwolves.
I've always thought that they were a direwolf, but I've been shot down so many times for saying that.
I've thought that for a long time. I've brought that theory up before, and it may not be a popular theory, but I should really, do another show on just that theory, because I've got a lot of information I can put on it. I mean, you look at the skeletal structure of a raccoon's hand, you can see how it's a primitive hand. It's not a developed hand like in a human, but you can also see how very much it can just draw it right back up into a paw because they run on all fours. It's only when they stop and start messing with food do they usually use their hands with polydactyly, like the way we use our fingers. But I think there's more to that one little detail of so many reports talking about the popping sound when Dogman stood up.
Maybe we should quit calling it Dogman and start calling it Raccoon Man. Yeah, it's less scary.
Robert Sharp says the popping you hear on a Dogman is their feet setting, and yes, they are an offshoot, but super intelligent. That's my theory. I think they're an offshoot of direwolf, and they basically evolved the ability to use their paws for more than just paws as a evolutionary defense. Because if you look at the current theories on direwolf, they may not have been a wolf at all, because they were very different from the modern wolf.
Yeah.
Josh is right. We all have theories, but nobody knows for sure.
That's absolutely true. It's fun to discuss the theories, though, as long as we discuss them as theories.
Exactly. Anything I present forth, I make no bones about being any kind of expert. I am not an expert in anything. The only thing I'm ever say I've really been good at is being a bad example most of the time. But any theories, any ideas I put forth are just my theories based on accounts I've read and people I've spoken to over the years. So I put nothing forth as gospel, and anything I put forth is just based on observation and what I think might be the case.
I agree.
Werewolf 5674 says, now raccoons are evil, stolen my food more than once. I would agree. And they are smart. I was camping one time up near Richland, Missouri, and we weren't out hunting. We just went out camping, and I had a little 22 rifle with me just for varmints. And I was laying on my sleeping bag in the tent one night, and I was laying there, and I can see the fire has burned low, but there's still enough light I can still see like through the front of the tent, and I see something kind of moving at the foot of the tent, and from the size of it, I can tell it's not very big. So I'm like, is there a raccoon or a possum out there? And I'm just laying there, just kind of looking at the tent flap, and I see the little zipper start raising. I'm like, that little bastard's unzipping the tent.
Wait till he comes and he grabs your gun and holds it on you.
I threw a boot at him.
That's
it didn't run at first. It looked at me with attitude, like, what the hell are you doing that for? And then it kind of scampered up. I'll get this thing loaded before you're gone. You're a dead man.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Robert Sharp says there's also theory that dire wolves sometimes lived with prehistoric man, and that's how we got the dogs we have today. I can see that. Mrs. Chef Yoda says raccoons got in my car. I left my window down. I think they were trying to get into my fiery hot Cheetos. I would have paid money to see raccoons trying to wash that off. Well, they didn't like them, but they sure made a mess out of my car. Raccoons are evil.
Oh, shoot. I keep thinking of the movie The Other Guys.
Yeah, it's a funny movie.
Oh, heck.
Northwoods Cryptid says better raccoons in the camp than skunks. That's a fact. Oh, that is definitely a fact. You ever been sprayed by a skunk? You won't want that to happen twice. I've never been sprayed directly, but I've been with a guy that got himself sprayed. He got out of the tent, stumbled over to the edge of camp because he had to pee, and I guess he was not paying attention. And he doused the skunk, and it doused him right back.
I'm sure it looked at him and said, "You can play that game."
Like, oh yeah,
and I'm better at it than you are.
He went straight out into the river too. Just like, oh my god, it's in my mouth. Of course, we were all laughing too hard to help him.
Oh shoot. Yeah, I wouldn't help him. I'd just laugh at him, and then I'd make him walk out in front of the car all the way home.
Oh, yeah, we didn't want him. We made him ride in the back of the truck. Everything is theory, but God's word. Raccoons and bears have ridiculous, I would assume, head games. Yeah, I've had raccoons run games on us. You know, one would distract us, and while we're chasing that one, the other three would try to get into our food. Yeah, raccoons are smart. Stupid trash pandas. Richie says, my favorite smell ever, skunk. Well, you would have liked the trip that I made to Joplin the other day, because like every other mile I was passing a dead skunk in the road. We smelled skunk all the way to Joplin. About the time one would start fading out, we'd be like, oh God, somebody hit another one.
There must have been a whole family of them. They scattered them all up the highway.
Yeah.
Nice to know some of the skunks could run that far, though, before they got hit. But was you? I'm sorry. You wouldn't know. No, not if he smelled like skunk. I wouldn't.
Right in the trunk or the bed of the truck. One. I'm not cleaning that out of my upholstery.
There is a serious limit, and it is a solid line over which I will not cross when it comes to helping people.
Mrs. Chef Yoda says, I got here late, but you guys starting your Wednesday night tales from the Ozarks? Well, you've already missed two. We kind of got derailed talking about Dogman a little bit when everybody was kind of getting off on that tangent with us. But you missed the first two. So if you missed the first hour of the show, you go back and listen about the first 40 minutes. You'll probably catch those first two stories. Since we are at the top of the hour, it is a good time to mention Dark Angel Medical, our sponsor. Kerry Pocket Doc Davis is a U.S. Air Force veteran and hell of a good guy. He founded Dark Angel Medical as a way to give medical kits to people who needed them. And I'm telling you, I carried one as a cop for years, and they're the best medical kits in the business. If you're going to do anything, you know, in the way the world is these days, if you're going camping, you're going out cryptid hunting, you're going out hiking, you know, anything like that, take a med kit. You never know when the life you save might be your own or someone you love. It's a dangerous world we live in, and it's better to be prepared. It's kind of like a parachute. It's better to have one and not need it than need one and not have it, because if you ever need one and don't have it, you probably never need one again. Here's a word from Kerry.
Everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DAX Machina with D.A. Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
All right, then.
So you ready for your next story?
I can do my next story.
All righty then.
My next one is going to be about Rawhead and Bloody Bones. And I have to tell you before I start, when I was a kid, this was a favorite story that my uncle used to tell to scare his children and nieces and nephews and anybody else who would listen. In fact, one night I had a cousin named David. He's passed now, and he was one of my favorite cousins. And David was a little bit of a snot. He was always doing what he was told not to do. And he was being bad, and he had a little tin whistle that he kept blowing, and my uncle kept telling him to stop it. And if he didn't stop it, Bloody Bones was going to get him. And they lived in an old farmhouse with a outhouse, and David had to go to the bathroom, and he got out there and he got his pants down around his ankles, and my uncle slapped the side of that outhouse with chains and started yelling, "Bloody Bones." David broke down the door of the outhouse and bit right through the whistle getting inside. But it was so scary for us kids, and because of that, I wanted to do a little research on it, and this is what I discovered. Rawhead and Bloody Bones steals naughty children from their homes, takes them to his dirty den, and they are never seen again. It began as a nursery rhyme in Ireland and Scotland hundreds of years ago. There wasn't much to it back then. Rawhead and Bloody Bones were just a couple of boogeymen who would come and cart away naughty children. They were often depicted as a single entity, a skinless, bloody face with wide, staring eyes sitting on a pile of bones. The bones of naughty children, of course. Parents were heard to say, "Be good, or Bloody Bones will come and get you." And my cousin could attest to that. Over time, Bloody Bones morphed into a ghastly skeleton who creeps up the stairs as he says, "I'm coming up the first step. I'm coming up the second step. I'm on the third step." And when he reaches the top the next day, the child is gone or found dead. Once the story of Bloody Bones reached America, however, it made a drastic change. It became an African-American folklore about a little boy named Little 8 John. He never listened to his mother, and he was always getting into trouble, and he was mean. He squashed frogs, pulled the wings off of flies, jumped out from behind bushes to scare the other kids, and set traps to hurt them. His mother was always telling him he'd better stop or Bloody Bones would come and take him away, but he didn't believe her. Then one night, Bloody Bones came and ate Little 8 John, leaving nothing but a bloody stain on the kitchen table. The next morning, the boy's mother woke up, saw the mess, and wiped it away, and that was the end of Little 8 John. Children were cautioned not to be bad, or they might end up with the same fate. Eventually, the story of Rawhead and Bloody Bones worked its way across the South. In the Appalachians, they told of a mining company that sent its workers out to find new spots for mines. They dropped dynamite charges down into the cracks and fault lines of the old mountains to create shafts large enough to lower workers into to explore. One of these crews opened just such a vent, but because it was so small, they were only able to lower their smallest man down into the shaft. They tied a rope around his waist and began slowly to lower him down. After a few minutes, he cried, "Hey, I think there's something down here with me. Bring me back up." "Don't be silly," yelled back the foreman of the crew. "There's nothing down there. You're just hearing the wind blowing across the opening." The crew continued to let out the rope and drop the worker deeper into the pit. "Stop!" screamed the worker. "Stop! Pull me up! Pull me up!" The other crew members scoffed at his cowardice and continued to let out the rope. Then there was a jerk on it, and an agonizing scream emanated from the opening. They all looked at each other for a second and then began to frantically pull at the rope, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if something was pulling at the other end. From deep in the hole, they heard what sounded like their co-worker being torn to shreds as his cries of pain and pleas for mercy were slowly swallowed by the sounds of something big growling and crunching on bones. At last, with one last heave, they pulled on the rope, and it came flying back at them, sending them all hurtling to the ground. They got back up and examined it. There was no co-worker on the end, but it was covered in blood. The men, now terrified, all ran for their truck to get out of there before whatever was in the hole, whatever had eaten their co-worker, came for them too. All the men except one. The foreman didn't run. He backed away until he backed into a boulder, and then he hid behind it to watch as something horrible, something human-like, something large and covered in blood, but oddly skeletal, crawled out of the hole and made its way into the woods, heading in the direction of the homes where the men all lived. At last, he too ran for the truck and managed to jump in just as the crew was pulling away. They drove back to the district office where they told their boss the whole story. He took them all back to the site where they found the rope still lying on the ground and a bloody trail leading into the woods. Off in the distance, where the homes of the workers were, they heard the first terrified cry. By the time the story reached the Ozarks, oh darn it, I did it again. It had changed yet again. Now it was the story of an old witchy woman named Old Betty who lived deep in the woods with her pet pig, who was her only friend. Old Betty was a scrawny, bony little woman with long, stringy hair and one green eye and one yellow eye that often looked in different directions at once. Many of her teeth were missing, and the few that remained were long and snaggled. Her nose was long and hooked, and her back was hunched and crooked. She was scary looking, but she was the best healer and conjurer in the Ozarks, so people came to her for help all the time. If someone needed a wart removed, the old woman made a lotion for it. If your kids were sick, she could heal them. If your animals were sick, she could heal them too. She even knew how to make a love potion to charm your heart's desire. No one hated Old Betty, but no one exactly liked her either. Mostly they were just a little afraid of her. In fact, Old Betty's only friend was a big old razorback hog she called Rawhead. He was the biggest, meanest looking hog anyone had ever seen, but he was devoted to the old woman. Old Betty didn't keep Rawhead pinned up because she didn't see him as livestock. She didn't even see him as a pet. Rawhead was her friend, and as far as she was concerned, he was free to roam the world like anybody else. Besides, she knew he'd always come to see her, especially around mealtime. Some said she let the hog eat too many of those herbs and remedies that she kept in her shack. Some swore they'd hear her talk to the pig, and then they'd hear him talking back. Others who had the guts to creep up on Old Betty's shack and peer through the windows claimed they'd see the pig walking around on two legs like a human and dancing with Old Betty to strange music that came from they knew not where. There was a mean, lazy swineherd who lived in the area who wanted Rawhead for himself. He wanted to take the pig to market and sell him for meat. As big as Rawhead was, the swineherd knew he'd make a pretty penny off of him. But no one ever thought he would, though. No one ever gave it much thought. That's how it was for years. Old Betty came into town once a week to sell her homemade remedies at the local mercantile, and Rawhead, as always, was with her to keep her company. Then one day she came to town alone. "Morning, Miss Betty," said the man behind the counter. "How are you this morning?" "Not so well," she croaked. "Have you seen Rawhead around?" The man was a bit surprised by this question. No one ever saw Rawhead in town unless he was with Old Betty. Sometimes you might see him out in the woods running around, but never in town, not without Betty. "No, ma'am," he told her with a shrug. "Well, I guess he'll come around sooner or later," she mumbled as she set her basket of potions and tinctures on the counter. But as she turned and looked out the window, she saw the wagon of the swineherd drive past, and a cold feeling ran through her bones. Without another word, she ran from the store and made her way down the road to the slaughterhouse. Half a block away, she could see the carcasses of the hogs hanging from great racks in the yard. There, right in the middle was the body of her beloved Rawhead, dead. With a great wail of anger and grief, she watched as the butcher pulled down the carcass and took it inside. She listened in agony as the body was cut to pieces and processed to sell. Tears of sorrow slid down her wrinkled old cheeks, and as she watched the pig's skull and bones being dumped into a pile with the bones of a dozen or more other animals, her heart broke inside her chest. She climbed through the fence and went over to the pile. She picked up the skull of the pig and stared at the empty sockets that had once been its eyes. Carefully, she picked through the other bones and drew out what she was sure belonged to Rawhead and carted them all home. That night, she conjured a spell like none she'd ever conjured before. She didn't have a complete body, so she called on an eagle and asked for a talon. The eagle complied to ease the woman's grief. Then she called in a wolf and asked for a tooth. He gladly gave it to the old woman who had once saved the life of one of his cubs. A raccoon came by and offered her his tail. She plucked out her own yellow eye and laid it on the bones of her pig. Late into the night, she sang an eerie song, stirred herbs into a pot, and poured a strange-smelling potion over the pig, the talon, the tooth, the tail, and the eye. In the pre-dawn hours, she murmured a conjure until she could conjure no more. She drew out a long knife, drove it into her own chest, and let the blood drip down onto the pile of animal parts and bones. As the sun rose over the cabin, old Betty breathed her last, and she was no more. That night, the lazy swineherd went out to his barn to do what little work he needed to get by. He had a horse that needed feeding, and there were some bales of hay he had to put up in the loft, hadn't done it yet. When he entered the barn, he saw what he thought was a kid standing in the corner. Must be a teenager, he thought, dressed for Halloween. He was tall for a kid. Heck, he was tall for a man. And he was wearing some kind of crazy mask that scared the wits out of the old swineherd. What are you doing here? He demanded. I've come to see you, growled the low voice. Who are you? What do you want? Asked the swineherd, but there was no answer. The man took a closer look at the person standing in the corner and said, That's some kind of crazy mask you're wearing. He scoffed at himself for being afraid. When it didn't answer again, he said, Those are some big eyes you got there. What are they for? The thing stared at him through a yellow eye and answered, To see you with. The man looked further and noticed the long talons on the end of its hands. Those are some big old talons you got there. What are they for? To dig your grave, it answered. Again, the man let his eyes slide over the creature in his barn and said, What about that silly raccoon's tail? What's that for? To sweep your grave, said the beast. And those teeth? He asked, finally feeling the fear creep through his body. To kill you with. And with that, the beast pounced on the swineherd and sunk the long teeth into his neck. Outside, the swineherd's cries could be heard for miles around, but no one came to save him. For an hour or more, he begged and pleaded and cried in agony, but no one seemed to care. The next day, the swineherd was gone and never seen again. But from that day forward, the beast that had once been Rawhead was seen quite often wandering through the woods. It was said that he'd killed the old swineherd and buried his bloody bones where no one would ever find him. And if little children were bad, he'd come calling for them too. Bloody bones, he'd call. I'm coming for your bloody bones, to get you and to eat you and to bury you in the woods. And that's the story that my uncle used to scare the crap out of us with.
Well, that's a good one.
I love bloody bones.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a creepy looking drawing too.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I don't know who did that, but it was amazing.
Now, I might be a little different than that fellow that it killed, but I'm telling you, if I opened a barn door and saw that standing in the corner, it would probably take me all of a half second to be back in the house and boarding the door.
I think lazy old swineherd is not nearly as accurate as stupid old swineherd.
Stupid may be better.
Yeah.
If you know an old witch lady that lives in the woods that makes magic potions and she's got a pet pig, leave it alone.
Exactly. Yes. Especially if it's rumored that she talks to that pig and dances with it.
Yeah. And the pig has been rumored to answer her. You probably a real good idea to leave that thing alone.
Yeah.
Moron. I like that. That's a good story.
Yeah, I when we were growing up, we always thought my uncle had created bloody bones. We had no idea that it was an old legend. And then further to learn that it goes all the way back to Ireland is just amazing to me. And
I didn't know it went back that far.
Yeah. And there were a few other incarnations, but I didn't cover them. There's just too many different things about him or about them, because sometimes it's two entities and sometimes it's one.
Well, I can see how that would have kept kids in line back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, my kids would be like, Dad, is this just another one of your stupid stories you tell us tonight? No.
For me, it wasn't. I'll tell you, I was absolutely terrified of Bloody Bones. My sister used to, and I told you this before we started. She's the reason I'm the way I am. Thanks, sis. I know she's on here listening, watching. I saw her pop up earlier. But she used to tell me Bloody Bones stories too, and gosh, they just used to terrify me. Now I look at them and I laugh because they're so interesting. But man, when I was a little kid, I was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay to mess with the old witch in the woods.
Yeah.
That's kind of where things went wrong in the movie Pumpkinhead.
Yeah. Yeah. Pumpkinhead. Did you cover Pumpkinhead?
I did not, and I'm not going to because I haven't been able to chase down the original story.
Ah.
The only thing I could really say with any clarity is basically a rehash of the movie. But I know somewhere I ran across the legend that was based on, and I'm going to keep digging because I know it was an Ozarks legend. I heard that years ago as a kid, long before I ever saw the movie. So I'm going to keep digging until I find that one. But my next one is from right here in Springfield. If you guys have watched Ghost Hunters, you've seen the special they did here. It's on the Pythian Castle that's here in town. And I'll show you a picture of it. It's kind of an impressive looking building. This is the Pythian Castle, and it's maybe a mile and a half from where I'm sitting right now. I mean, it's just not very far up the street from us. Originally built in 1913 by a society called the Knights of Pythias, kind of like the Elks Lodge or almost like the Freemasons, but not quite that in depth. But the Knights of Pythias still exist as a fraternal order, so they're still around. But you don't hear much out of them, much like the Templars or the Freemasons. You don't hear much about the Knights of Pythias. But the place was originally built as an orphanage and a retirement home for retiring members of the order. It was functioned as an orphanage for a long time, and I'm sure during that time they probably had their shares of retired members of the order passing away in the castle, as well as possibly some of the kids. We don't know. They don't have good records from back in those days, but we do know that it did serve as an orphanage. But by World War II, it was taken over by the U.S. Army. The U.S. Army used this castle here in Springfield, Missouri, as a place to hold prisoners of war, both Japanese and German, throughout the length of World War II. In fact, there were Japanese prisoners that were kept in some of the rooms in the basement. And to this day, when people do ghost tours of it, they've been reported of hearing somebody whispering in Japanese in the room, and people have been physically attacked. One guy left the room with scratch marks down his back. It's a really creepy place. But after it served as a prisoner camp, it also served. It's passed hands many times, but it's been used as a bed and breakfast. It's been used in a number of things, and for a lot of years, it's sat empty. And when it was empty, people report seeing lights moving around inside it and things like that. But it's been bought and restored, and now they're taking ghost tours through it. And there are places down in the basement. There's a tunnel that leads from the basement out the back of the property down to an old boiler room. And people have reported feeling things touch them. A few people have been shoved in the tunnel. When ghost hunters did their thing on there, they captured a number of orbs and lights in it. It's a very creepy place. And like I said, it's sat empty for a lot of years. But the most interesting things I think about it is the tales of the POWs, because people have caught on camera like strange shaped orbs in some of these rooms, and the fact that some people have reported being physically attacked in these rooms really creeps me out. I'm hoping that I can organize a group going in there to do some filming and see what we can pick up on maybe EVP as well. But I've got to get a hold of the owner and be arranging going in there with the guys from Horror Chronicles. They're out of Rolla, Missouri, and they expressed interest in going with me. So I'm going to try to get a group of us together to go in there and see how much we can, see what we can film and spend the entire night in there. But it is a very creepy place, and I've personally seen lights in the windows as I drove by at night. And that easily could have been, somebody moving around, but I'm not talking like a room lit up. I'm like looks like a flashlight kind of moving across the room from window to window, which again, it could have been somebody in there with a flashlight. Who knows? But it's a very, very creepy building. And I've been up on the porch of it, but I've never been in it because the last time I was up there, they weren't doing tours. I found out the hard way they weren't doing tours because they'd shut them down for COVID. But I do intend to go back. My wife is very sensitive to things like that. And she had a weird feeling the entire time we were there. So I'm really hoping she'll go back with us and do the full tour. Neoma, you'd be welcome to go with us. I think it'd be a really great place to go explore. It's huge. And they, it's open for public venues. People have weddings and stuff there. But the ghost hunts are what I'm most interested in. And the fact that it was an orphanage and then a POW camp really intrigues me. I think we're going to get some really interesting EVPs down there.
I'll be there. You just tell me when.
I'm going to try to set it up as soon as I can. And when we do it, I'll see if I can live stream from there because I'm pretty sure they have good Wi-Fi in there. But that would definitely be something I would want to live stream and have as many of you guys involved in it as possible. So it's something I do want to set up. Not so much a ghost story as more of a creepy location. And it's a really pretty building, but even looking at it at night, it's just a really weird looking place. It's right behind the National Guard Armory. So it's like got all of this barbed wire around it. And it looks like almost like it's a prison, but until you realize that the chain link and barbed wire aren't there for it. They're there for the armory, but it's kind of just, it sets back from the road. It's really an odd location, and it's really creepy to look at. Really kind of a neat old place, and I'm really looking forward to being able to do a ghost hunt there. So hopefully I'll be able to get some film there really soon.
Josh is on board.
Hell yeah, Josh.
And it looks like somebody said they have a friend, Mary Beth, that works there. I saw that, but I don't know where it went. So you might have an in. Well, it just says Facebook user. That was an interesting sound.
What, that
Did you hear that sinister laugh?
No. I didn't
Thank
hear.
you so much. You did not hear a sinister laugh. Okay.
Facebook user says my friend Mary Beth Jones works there. Shoot me an email and maybe we can help put me in touch with who I need to get a hold of. I would very much like to do a live stream from there. My email is, let me throw that up real fast. daroberts@daroberts.net. I would love it if you'd toss me an email on that and maybe arrange a conversation with somebody, because I don't know who to get a hold of. Maybe I'll just have to go over there. But if you can set that up, that would be awesome. I guess while I've got things thrown up, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out the Patreon, swing by patreon.com/DARobertsAuthor. We just posted Josh posted it for me because he did all the editing, but there's over an hour long video on there of doing basically what we're doing right now, telling creepy stories around the campground. When the Jones family did their big family reunion back in July, I was invited down to the campground they were staying at along the Niagara River, and I went down there and told them a bunch of Missouri legends. Ironically, about a mile and a half downriver from where the events in Apex Predator Wolf Moon took place.
Okay. Are you telling me nobody heard that laugh? Not one person heard that laugh? I didn't hear it. Because Josh says it didn't come over the air either.
I didn't hear a laugh.
Okay. I'm not calm at all.
Well, I don't blame you.
This is only my imagination. It is only my imagination.
Well, Werewolf 5674 says the sounds in your house, Neoma.
Yeah, thanks.
Josh says name of the other night when I was working on the intro and outro, I just finished, turned off all the audio, and then heard a similar laugh in my headset. Needless to say, I went to bed early.
Yeah. Not one person heard it.
Apparently not.
Okay, then.
RJ says the call is coming from inside your house, Neoma.
Yeah, thanks. Got ya. That is creepy. I just heard a ho, ho, ho. And that's exactly what it sounded like.
Really? I didn't hear it. I didn't hear a thing. Oh my God. I wish that would have come over the air. That would have been so badass.
Yeah, I wish it would have too, that we could have blamed it on the computers.
Yeah.
That is just not one person. I'm sorry. I'm just a little weirded out.
I don't blame you. I would be too.
Well, okay, so Josh says that he heard that the other night in his headset, so we're going to blame it on the computer. There is something. That is weird. That is the creepiest thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. Sleeping with my Bible tonight. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Flamethrower, Bible, holy water,
that seems to be
cross.
the consensus that nobody heard anything.
That is just weird. It just went, well, it didn't sound like that. It was a lot deeper. It was, and that was it. It was just the three little huffs. And okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get us distracted, but Lord have mercy.
Can you give me about 30 seconds? I'm going to mute my mic and take my camera off for just a second. My nose is running and I don't want to blow my nose on the air.
Okay. I'll tell jokes. So talk amongst yourselves. How's everybody doing? Y'all fine? I have a laughing thing going on in my house right now. Terrified. Absolutely horrified. So, has anybody else ever had that experience? Besides Josh. I know Josh had it. What if it's true? Yes, I'm Neoma Finn, and that was just a story, but what if it's true?
What if it's true?
I am absolutely freaked out.
I don't blame you. I would be too.
Yeah. Whew. I can't even think straight right now. Talk about something, please.
I'm at a complete loss.
Yeah. Alyssa, I'm at the complete other end of the house from that. Whew.
It might have just been some noise artifact in the headphones.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Or my imagination. Complete figment of my imagination. That was just unbelievably. Yeah. Yeah, if I see something, you'll know, because this will be a blank screen. There will be an empty chair sitting here where I was. Oh, Lord. I call my husband Thor. That's pretty funny. Do I make Christmas cookies? I do. Okay. Anything. Talk any topic. Let's go on to the next story. This is the story of Blue Boy. And I'm not gonna mess with graphics because I'm just a little too I don't think I had graphics on this one anyway. Gerald Bettis was a difficult boy. He was born to elderly parents who'd never had children before him. As such, he was probably overindulged when he was young enough that his personality was being formed. So by the time it became obvious that he had issues, it was likely too late to change him. The house in Quitman, Arkansas, that was purchased by Floyd and Aline Bettis was built and first inhabited by the Garrett family sometime around 1890. It was considered one of the finer homes in the sleepy little town, but it has a sad history. The Garrett family didn't live there in the house for long. Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin Jackson took up residence there sometime before World War I. Mrs. Jackson died there when she was just 28 years old. Their only child, a son named Joseph, was born in 1898 and served in the Great War, where he died at the young age of 21. Rumors abound that Benjamin Jackson, his wife, and their son never really gave up their residence in the old house. Some say Benjamin can be seen looking down on the street from a second-story window on dark nights. But it isn't these families or their ghosts who made the house at 65 Mulberry famous. It was the Bettis family. They moved into the home sometime in the early 1950s. It was in this house that their only child, Gerald, was born in 1954. Floyd and Aline were good people, maintained those citizens of the town who remember them, but their son was, well, he was a brat. Vicious and cruel. He enjoyed inflicting pain on others, those helpless to prevent it. He got the nickname Dog Boy because of his habit of collecting stray dogs and cats and taking them to his house, where he would torture them for his own entertainment. Neighbors often reported hearing the poor animals howling in agony under Gerald's ministrations. He was so obsessed with his pastime that his parents even built onto the house to make more room for the defenseless animals. As time passed and Gerald grew into manhood, his parents, already old when he was born, grew frail and weak. At 6 feet 4 inches tall and nearly 300 pounds, he easily overpowered them and kept them as virtual prisoners in the upstairs of the house. He fed them, but only when and what he felt necessary. Reports of regular beatings came in at an alarming rate. He even beat up his father and threw him out of an upstairs window. Floyd Bettis was in his 70s at the time. Somehow he managed to hang on to a ledge until the police showed up to rescue him. In 1981, Floyd died in his house. The newspaper stated that it was the result of a long illness. Those who knew the family claim it was of a broken neck, but those who knew the family claim it was from a broken neck after being thrown down the stairs. Not long after that, Aline Bettis fell and broke a hip. A nurse who worked in the hospital at that time saw Gerald slap his mother and tell her he'd have her arrested if she told anyone what he did. She was placed in Adult Protective Services and permanently removed from the home at that time. The neighbors all feared Gerald Bettis as much as his parents did. One neighbor remembered him railing at them for trimming a magnolia tree that was on their property, but which hung over into the Bettis backyard. "I was afraid of him," said the neighbor. "If you had ever seen his eyes, they seemed to glow at night." After his mother was removed from his care, Gerald built a greenhouse onto the back of the house. From there, he sold the plants he grew, including marijuana. The police stepped in and arrested him, and based on this and his mother's testimony against him in court, he was sent to prison, where he died in May of 1988 at the age of 34. Aline Bettis died in 1995, and the house was passed to a niece. She didn't stay long. She sold the house to a truck driver and his wife, who managed to live there for a couple of years. Excuse me. During that time, they experienced quite a bit of paranormal activity. The wife would leave the house to go to work at her night shift job and turn off all the lights, but when she came home, they were all turned back on. Once, pennies floated down the stairs, then dropped to the floor all at once right in front of her. Another time, the husband saw a man looking through the foyer into the living room. He was dressed in as a World War I soldier, complete with helmet. When he proceeded into the living room, the husband ran after him, but he wasn't there. Another couple who rented the house from the truck driver and his wife had their own issues. Toilets would flush on their own. Once the husband was on the phone with his wife when he heard a crash from upstairs. He went up to investigate and found a stack of 2x4s he placed up there earlier, all standing on end. The truck driver has stated that selling the house was no easy task. If you brought someone there the spirits didn't like, you'd get chills down your back. One set of prospective buyers saw a recliner flip back on its own as if someone were sitting in it. It stayed stuck in that position the entire time they were there. Yet another prospect brought his dog, but the dog refused to enter the house. The man who worked to remodel the house said he often felt he was being watched. He preferred to work at night due to the number of people who would show up during the day wanting to see inside. But one night as he worked, he saw a huge man with big arms and hands and long brown hair walk right in front of him. He stopped and glared for a minute, then walked through the hall and disappeared. Was it the ghost of Gerald Bettis? Do he and his parents still reside in the old house? Are the Jacksons still around, or has some sort of demon taken up residence to bring terror and havoc to anyone who lives in the Bettis house? And
that's creepy.
That story. Yeah.
That's creepy as hell.
And that one was easily researched because there are stories all over the internet and YouTube about Gerald Bettis and his sadistic manners. So I wonder if there was a demon in that house, because the one neighbor said that Gerald Bettis's eyes seemed to glow.
Mm-hmm. And that's not something you would typically see in a human.
No. So, but yeah, I should talk about my Christmas cookies. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I think I got hold of myself with that story.
That's good.
Yeah. If I hear it again, though.
Hooter Transport says I have to get Ray Parker Jr. to remake Ghostbusters song to Squatch Busters. That's funny.
Who are you gonna call? Yeah.
That's about the extent of my dancing.
I want to be Harold Ramis. Anyway, so yeah, that seems to be a true life ghost story that goes on in that little town, and that it's not a really big town, but it's the halfway point between St. Louis and Little Rock, I think.
What town was it called?
Knew you'd say that. Is it Quitman? I already shut it down. No, I didn't. Here it is. It's Quitman, Arkansas. It's in north central Arkansas.
That'd be a cool one to go visit.
Mm-hmm. The house is still there. There's pictures of it on the internet, but I couldn't find one that I could use.
Huh.
I don't want to get in trouble for, using someone else's photograph.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's still there, and I don't know if it's still for sale, because the last article that I read that I got the story about the truck driver and his family, that was written in 2007. But as of then, it still hadn't been sold because nobody wants to live there. So I think it'd be a fun one to go explore.
If it's in the hands of a real estate company, maybe we could schedule a viewing.
There you go. The address was all over the internet too. So yeah, usually there's some crazy person that's willing to buy it just because it's haunted. So
you'd think.
Yeah, one of my favorite real estate listings I ever saw in my entire life began with, "If you don't mind living with ghosts, it's a beautiful home, Victorian, well maintained. You just have to accept that there's going to be the occasional scary face in the mirror next to yours."
Josh says, can you imagine that request? Can we schedule a viewing at like 1 a.m.?
We're night people.
Yeah. We're all night owls. We want to see how the house is in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Think they'd buy it?
You never know.
They might.
Yeah. Absolutely. Gonna go in during the day though, if you don't mind.
Well, it sounds like it's not going to matter.
Yeah, no, that's true because things happen day and night in that house.
So who knows?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that there were two families that had an only child, and they were both sons, and both sons met unhappy endings.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, clearly the ghost that the truck driver saw walk into his living room had to have been the son that died in World War I.
Had to be.
So yeah.
Came
They
home.
say that you could see Mr. Jackson staring out the upstairs window sometimes at night.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I love to go check places like that out.
Yeah. I wish I could have found a picture that I could have shared because it's kind of a pretty little house. It's not it isn't the mansion that I was imagining as I was reading about it, but it's very pretty, gingerbread type, multiple eaves and the big heavy or the elongated roof and things like that.
Josh says I need to move back so we can do more trips. Hell yeah, man. Come on down.
Yeah.
We'll find some crazy places to go to almost constantly.
Yeah. Not a problem. Move down here and I'll take you over to the LBL daily if you want.
Yeah, I am definitely going back to LBL. I don't know exactly when, but it's gonna be worth another trip.
But whatever date you go, you let me know so I can meet you there.
Definitely. You gotta when I'm back there, we weren't probably gonna stay in the same resort we stayed in last time because after October 1st, their rates drop. So dropped considerably. It was a really nice resort. They have a place there in Grand Rivers called, I think it was called Cabin Pizza. Ran by just some good old hillbillies, but the pizza was shockingly good.
Yeah.
It's like the only pizza place in that town too.
I come from a town where we're all pizza snobs, so it'll be hard to please me. We have our own style of pizza called Quad City Pizza, and it's very different from most pizza. But I like a lot of types of pizza. I love Chicago style pizza.
I do too. I like that thick, heavy pizza, lots of meat and cheese. That's my favorite kind. My wife likes like the thinner the better, like cracker crust.
Oh, I have a brother.
I don't mind thin once in a while,
that.
but I'm a big fan of that Chicago style deep.
Yeah, I like to order one pizza and fill the family with it, and Chicago style pizza will do that.
Yeah, fill yourself off one slice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what is the name? Starts with a G. Not Geno's, but the other one is down by. There's one. They've got multiples of them in Chicago, but there's one that's not too far from the Field Museum and the aquarium. You can walk up there about 3 blocks up. Giordano's. Yes, God, I love Giordano's pizza. That is the best.
Robert Sharp says, would both of you like to see a Dogman? I can take you to see one. Hell yeah, I'd love to see one.
Where, when, and how much protection can you give me? That's important to me. Can I see it from 100, maybe 150 miles away?
Probably not.
Okay, well, mile? Can I see it from a mile away? Can you fly me over it?
At least like across the bay.
Yeah.
With a telephoto lens.
How about a drone?
That might get the job done too.
Yeah.
Have you seen that footage of these guys were filming an alligator with a drone and they got too close and it snapped the drone out of the air? I'll see if I can find the video again. It was so funny. It was like hovering. They're like getting real good footage, and the guy's like, "It's noticed the drone. You might want to pull it up." Bam!
Too late.
An alligators will eat anything. I mean,
yeah. Pizza by the Pound in Paducah. I've never heard of that one.
I did not eat at the Pizza by the Pound in Paducah, Kentucky, but there was a little barbecue place that we ate at in Paducah that I can't remember the name of it. It's just down the road from the interstate, about a block from the hotel we stayed in. It was really good barbecue. I for like $7, I ordered when I ordered a half chicken. I thought it was going to be like when you order at most barbecue places, it's like Cornish game hen size. No, this was like half a fryer. I was like, holy crap, will you look at all that chicken?
Chicken or turkey, who knows? Chicken or turkey, one or the other. Who could tell?
It wasn't quite turkey size, but it was a big fryer hen, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It was smoked real good, too.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting a little behind on, I think, the comments here.
Yeah, you're probably right. I've been paying too much attention to them. Let me scroll back a little ways. Josh says, Robert, if you can have access to them so easily, will you take some photos and send them to DA put on the show? Yeah, that would be
there
awesome.
You go. Yeah.
We get some photos. We definitely put them on the show, but I would love to see them live. I really, really would like to.
He's using the word I there for a reason. He's not saying we.
TFV says Ohio. Oh, I guess he was talking to Josh. Hey, Lewis. He says Pizza Hut, the pan pizza is pretty good. It's not bad. I do like a real good Chicago style. They had a place here in town where they used to do brick oven baked Chicago style pizza, and I cannot remember the name of the place, but it went out, and I was pretty upset. It went out about a year and a half ago. Dresden says Dogman or Mac VSOG. Yeah, pretty much. Allstang Volcan says, first time listener, love the Dixie Cryptid story. Awesome. Thank you so much. Dixie Cryptid is awesome. They have some fantastic stories, and Neoma does some amazing narrations.
Thank you.
I'm a huge fan of hers. Northwoods Cryptid says, I got spoiled with good Italian food when I lived in upstate New York.
Yeah, I had to learn to cook Italian food. I'm not as good, but it's better than what I can get around here.
Irene says, I make my own. The kids call me to make it at least once a week. Heck yeah. I love homemade pizza too. Of course, I generally, don't eat too many meals I don't like, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
Josh talking to TFV said there's places I want to check out, but eventually want to move back. I miss my friends, LOL, all tower guys in DA. Miss you too, buddy. I want you back in this area all the time. I've been to Paducah, Kentucky. Paducah's a nice little area. The funny thing was, I spent 4 days in LBL. The people in Grand Rivers, if you brought up the Dogman story, they would shut you down. But in Paducah, they're like, "Oh yeah, I used to hear." Yeah, people in Paducah were like, "Oh yeah, we know all about that, man." People have been talking. There's been sightings as close as just a few miles from here. Yeah, people in Paducah were all about talking about it. But Grand Rivers, man, it was like you shot their grandma when you talked about it.
Yeah. In Paducah, they don't actually have it. They have to drive down to Grand Rivers to see it. Ghibli.
This is like Ghibli. Richie says only New York City is real pizza, and pizza came from New York City. Mr. Lombardi is the first in 1900 or 1905. FYI, just because they did it first doesn't mean they did it best.
Pizza came.
I'm not a big fan of New York style pizza. I don't like to have to fold it over, and I want to eat my pizza. Never mind. I'm a foodaholic.
There are recipes for pizza in England all the way back to the year 1000. Nothing like what we call pizza today, but do what? What are we talking about? What? I forgot. Oh, he's going to take pictures.
Yeah. Werewolf 5674 says, I have to go to LBL, only Dogman specific place I know. There's more than that. There have been Dogman sightings, and it was actually the siege of Lockett Ranch near Taylor, Mississippi, where there are areas that people even today say don't go, especially at night. So, of course, I want to go there at night and film. There are been a number of sightings up near Hannibal, Missouri. And there are Dogman sightings across the country. But there was most recently there was one sighted somewhere in southern New Jersey. But there have been a number of places that have had big Dogman experiences in the area.
Yeah. I'm interested in going to Taylor.
I definitely
Driving through it at about 70 miles an hour.
Oh, come on now.
No,
one great story I heard out of Taylor, Mississippi was of a trucker that pulled off onto the side of the road to sleep and had something running its claws down the side of his truck. And when he started checking his mirrors, trying to figure out what the heck it was, he looked out the window and it was looking in the window at him.
Wow.
Needless to say, he decided to sleep somewhere else that night.
Yeah, I could see where that would be a good option. While it was still an option.
Facebook user says Pizza Inn's been gone from Springfield forever ago. That's true. Yeah, my wife always liked Pizza Inn. In fact, when we first got married, the duplex we rented was literally right across the street from Pizza Inn. So I'd get home from work and I'm like, I don't feel like cooking. We'd just walk across the street and go to Pizza Inn. Robert Sharp says, I live in Paducah. Well, then you probably know that little barbecue place. I don't know the name of it. It's a family-owned place, just down across from that mall that has Kohl's in it, because we went and bought my wife tennis shoes at Kohl's while we were waiting for the hotel to be ready. But the barbecue place is just kind of across the street at an angle from that shopping center that has Kohl's in it. Really good barbecue.
It's not Moonlight Barbecue, is it? I think that might be
that was the name of it.
Yeah,
I don't think that was the name of it.
Okay.
Lewis says, if you make it over here, there's a place called Blaze Pizza. You can create your own pizza for about $8 between the wife and I are going to have one, but it's pretty thin. It sounds good.
I think there's a Blaze Pizza here. It's fire. They have the wood-fired oven. Yeah,
well, that's good pizza. I want to build one of those wood-fired ovens in my backyard. Yeah. I got to clear it with my landlord first, but I want to build one. Lewis says, that was already read that one. TFV says there's been Dogman sightings here near my location. Where are you at? Robert Sharp says, yes, I do. Apparently he does know which barbecue place I'm talking about. Yeah, let me know the name of that. I wouldn't mind plugging that place, especially in a book, because the next Apex Predator book is going to be set in LBL. So that's probably where the characters will stop and eat, because there's really not much place to stop and eat in Grand Rivers. Robert Lewis says, it's like the one time we saw a coyote in the city, and I asked the Tustin Police Department if they were coming. From what they said, they're coming in from the sewer systems. So I take her now. That's what they're getting around. Yeah. There have been a lot of animals getting into the town using drainage ditches and things like that.
Wow.
Facebook user says Blaze Pizza is good.
Mm-hmm.
TFE says White Mountains of Arizona. That'd be a cool place to go squatching. I'd like to come out there and do that. Lenita Bryant says, just come on to my house. I make homemade any kind you like. Well, that sounds awesome.
I make homemade pizza too, because it's the closest we can get to Quad City style down here. But that's one of those things that I don't mind making, but I'd rather go out and eat it.
Neoma, you just got confirmation. He says, sorry, I know I'm behind, but I went back and re-listened, and the sinister laugh actually does come through over the air. It's quiet, but I definitely heard it listening through headphones.
Okay. Trying to think how I'm going to react to this. Am I happy?
Papa Bear says, please stop talking pizza. I'm starving now. Sal says, Papa Bear, yes, let's stop the insanity.
Oh my gosh.
Chef Boyardee. I do like talking food, Speaking of pizza, if you've read Apex Predator Horned Moon, where I talk about what's called the Pizza Cellar in Rockaway Beach, Missouri, that place is really there. Most of the restaurants that I use, except for Steve's Pub and Grub in my books, that one doesn't exist yet. But the Pizza Cellar is really, really there, and their pizza is fantastic, really good. They make their Italian sausage there, and also their cheese. Yeah, they make the mozzarella from scratch. Freaking good. It's like big old chunks of mozzarella on it, kind of the old fashioned way.
I'm
Good
sorry,
pizza.
pizza. I'm hearing laughs. I'm sorry. I forgot what we were talking about.
Josh says, "DA, can you talk a little bit about that article you posted about the government soft release encrypted information they've been doing about UFOs?" Yeah, there's an article posted on my author page, which is facebook.com/DA Roberts author. It's also in the Team DA Roberts page if you're a member there. But go to that page. You can find the article that Josh is talking about. I I don't want to go into a whole lot of details on it because I don't know how much of that is like copyrighted because it's an article, because you really can't, just verbatim take from a published work without getting in trouble. But the article really starts talking about some of the stuff they're declassifying. And there's some indication that they may actually start declassifying some of the cryptid stuff as well. So check that article out. You can find it again. Let me see if Josh, can you just pull that article up and post it in the chat? Post the link directly to my page. That would be awesome if you could do that. If not, let me know and I'll try to get it. But yeah, the government's getting ready to release a bunch of new classified files on UFOs and possibly cryptids. Irene Dewitt says, my mother's first cousin lives near Blackwater Swamp. She says there's something big there. Last few weeks, it's coming close to the house.
Ooh.
Where's that at? Where's Blackwater Swamp at?
Robert Sharp. Yeah, no. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. That didn't work for me.
Now, Lindy says, please do. I want to listen. Hopefully, Josh is grabbing that article. Papa Bear says, you're killing this fat kid. Sorry, man. Werewolf 5674 says, I've only found one sighting here, and I'm at Hannibal. The one on the radio station did. There's a video on Amazon Prime called Werewolves of Missouri, or Werewolves of, I want to say Werewolves of Hannibal. Let me look it up real fast. I will just post the link straight to that.
Ooh.
I know I saw it somewhere. Well, I'm not finding it. I apologize. Give me a couple minutes to hunt that up, and I will. Lewis says, have you been to Roswell, and what did you think of that place? Yes, I actually have been to Roswell, New Mexico. I lived in New Mexico for a number of years. This was a bunch of years ago, though. My brother still lives in a little town in New Mexico called Clayton, which is due north of Roswell, a couple hundred miles. But I've been to Roswell, and it's very, very commercialized. I don't think you're going to find anything legitimate there anymore, simply because anything that was at that impact site, the government probably mined out of there a long time ago. So pretty much everything there is now designed around tourists. You might still see lights in the sky. There might still be something you could see in the sky itself, but as for the town and the little kitschy shops and stuff, I don't really think you're going to find anything other than ways to separate you from your money.
I'm kind of looking. I found the Werewolves of Miller's Hollow. So that laugh.
You think it was?
I don't want to know. I think it was a figment of my headphones imagination.
I just posted a link in there. It's to a video about government acknowledging Bigfoot. Definitely check that out.
Have you been aroused? Josh says that supposedly the Area 51 top secret extraterrestrial stuff has been moved.
From the Groom Lake facility. God knows where it's at now.
Yeah. He said more, but it went out of my... I keep waiting for the rest of it to pop up on the other screen, but it hasn't yet. And I can't make this move. Oh, there it went.
And I found it. It's not called Werewolves of Hannibal. It's called The Hound of Hannibal.
Oh.
I just posted the link to that. It's available on Amazon Prime. It's $2.99 to rent or $9.99 to purchase. I have not watched it yet because I've been kind of saving that for a weekend where I can watch it with the wife. It's an hour long, and the what it says is The Hound of Hannibal, an American Werewolf. An increasing number of Dogman sightings trouble residents of a small Midwest tourist town. And as the events become more violent, they are forced to reluctantly seek help. Paranormal investigators and cryptid experts interview several of the eyewitnesses and document the evidence of their claims before heading into the woods in search of the beast. So I'm going to watch that. That sounds pretty good.
Me too.
Hey, Bob Foote, thanks for joining us, man. Lindy says there was a UFO in Alabama by me and the police saw it. There was an article in the newspaper, looked it up, says files missing. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Josh, thank you for pulling up that video. If you guys get a chance to check out that Hound of Hannibal, and you guys have, if anybody's already seen that, let me know what you thought of it. If you're planning on watching it, let me know because I would like to watch it maybe and try to discuss it possibly at the Saturday show because I think we're only going to have Jonathan Mayberry for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Last time he was on the show, he wasn't able to stay long, so we'll see. He might stick around this time. He didn't give me an indication of how long he would be able to stick around this time, but he's a busy dude, so I'm not expecting him to spend the full time with us. So we might delve into some videos and talk critters and monsters once Mr. Mayberry leaves, unless he sticks around for the whole time, in which case, who knows, we might get him to talking monsters.
Yeah,
which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Lewis says, I keep trying to find the story of the family that was killed up north in Yosemite. They stopped reporting it. Yeah, that's a creepy story. A family of three. It was a man, a woman, and a small child. It was either a toddler or a baby, and their dog were all found dead. They won't say what the cause of death was. They shut the area of the park down, and now the story's gone.
Really?
Mm-hmm. At first, they were saying they thought it was some sort of contagion. So they cordoned the area off, but to me that just sounds like they wanted to keep people out of the area. The bodies were never shown, never shown on the news. You didn't see the bodies coming out. They didn't say the condition that people were found in. They said they were found off the trail near a ravine. And the man, the woman, the baby, and the dog were all dead.
Wow.
And they won't say cause of death, and the stories just kind of went away.
That was that the one that they were saying might be an algae?
Yeah, they said that's what they said at first, but then it just kind of went away. And I don't buy the algae story.
Yeah, because it would have killed everything within about 20 or 30
including
mile
the people that
radius.
went looking for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people that found them probably would have had to have been quarantined and possibly died.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Bob Foote says, DA, I was reading Codename Wild Hunt Team Odin, had a question. Shoot. Always happy to answer questions about the books. World 5674 says, how do I wake up with muddy feet some mornings? Sleepwalking?
I actually suffer a little bit from somnambulism.
My son used to sleepwalk, but he got over it. He hasn't done it since he was a kid.
As an adult, they say that it's usually a result of extreme stress. And when I've been in extremely stressful situations, I have had some weird things. I've done some strange things in my sleep.
Bob Foot says the question is, why was Clark, Dan, was happy, surprised when he offered a chew and almost everyone on the Blackhawk took some? It was the beginning of the book. If you spend any time among soldiers and cops, there's always going to be somebody that's going to go, "That's shit's bad for you, right?" But when nobody said it, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take one." He was just kind of pleased with himself that nobody was telling him that his one real big vice was bad for him, going to kill him one day. It was just kind of a grin thing. I know when I worked with a certain group of individuals back when I chewed, there was always one guy in the crowd, "Man, that stuff will rot your lip out." There was always one in the crowd that make you. It's just like if you're sitting at a restaurant and you go to take a bite of a cheeseburger and the guy at the next table goes, "Those things will kill you, man." You're like, "Oh my God, why don't these things come with a warning label?" Jesus Christ, I almost died. God bless you, sir. Almost had a moment of joy there. Asshole, mind your own damn business.
Got news for you. Nobody lives forever.
That's right.
You hear about that guy
that used to jog 10 miles every day and jog to work back and forth and had a heart attack, died on the bridge at 35? Well, I'm not going to be that guy.
No, I'm going to die old, fat, and miserable.
That's right. Scientists say that every slice of bacon you eat takes 5 minutes off your life. And if that's true, I should have died sometime in the late 1700s.
Yeah.
Because I grew up on farm fresh bacon.
Me too. Not only that, but I've always seasoned my green beans with it, and I cook with bacon. I mean, I save my bacon fat in the refrigerator, and I use it to cook with.
Heck yeah. TFV says way more to that situation than they can tell, probably because they can't wrap their heads around it, or something killed them. They don't want to admit what it is. That might start a panic. Werewolf 5674 says, "I'll check it out if I have a target. I'm on it, DA." Awesome. Oissa says, "We have poison algae here. You have to swim in it or drink the water for it to kill you. It has a neurotoxin that kills in hours."
I think that they were originally talking an algae turnover on a pond.
Mm-hmm. Lewis says, "My brother used to sleepwalk when he was younger. He would go to the door, open it, and slamming it, then come back to bed." I would come home from work when I was a deputy, and a lot of times I would work really long hours because we were shorthanded chronically, and I found myself one time setting up in bed, setting up on the side of the bed, putting my boots on, and I looked at the clock and I was like, "No, it's the middle of the night. Go back to bed." I was trying to get into armor and go to work. And my wife's like, "Honey, what the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm going back to bed." Bob Foot says, "Oh, okay. I thought it was something else. Thank you. No problem." TFV says, "I chewed for years now. Day three without any cope. I'm dying." I feel you, brother. I quit a long time ago, but quitting was not easy. You know how I got through it? If you go to your local like gas and sip or convenience store, they have ground beef jerky in a can, just like chew, and that's how I quit doing it. I started chewing just like it. I put it in my lip just like it was a dip, and it's beef jerky. It's ground up beef jerky, and I did that until finally I didn't have the desire for it anymore, and realized I'm just eating jerky, and it's a lot more expensive in this ground up can than it is by the big bag. But that helped me get around it. They say that the physical addiction to the nicotine is only 72 hours. Beyond that, it's just willpower. Facebook user says, "I don't trust anyone that doesn't eat bacon."
I would argue that beyond that, it's just murder. I'm just saying.
Northwoods Cryptid says, "Cryptids steal pigs from farmers because they like bacon too." Well, I don't blame them. I think we should have Bigfoot deal with the feral pig population they have down in the Mark Twain National Forest. if they like pigs, we'll let them wipe out that feral pig population because those things would, you can go out some sections of the Mark Twain and see where they have destroyed everything. And feral pigs are no joke. There was open season on them for the longest time with the Missouri Department of Conservation, and there still is, but it's under certain circumstances. And that's something I would like to do is set up a good blind and go out and lay waste to some feral pig, because shockingly, it does make pretty good pork. It's a little gamey. You got to prepare it right, but.
Well, everything's wild is gamey if you don't prepare it right.
Yeah.
Most people just don't know what they're doing.
Exactly. Esther says 12-hour shifts. Yeah, I did 12s and then later 16s because we were shorthanded. Richie says, "Speak for yourselves because I will live forever." There you go. Lewis says, "I quit smoking by smoking cigars. I couldn't inhale the cigar smoke, so that's how I quit smoking regular." Hey, man, whatever gets you through it. I know people that have used those e-cigs to quit smoking, and that worked pretty well for them. Just don't let whatever you use to get you off of that become your new addiction. Oh, we're losing Neoma.
Am I with you?
Yeah, we got you. You flashed in and out.
Yeah. That's 11:19.
Sal says they do make good pork. My uncle hunted them a lot, and we always had fresh meat. Heck yeah, that's the best part of hunting, is being able to stock a deep freeze with good meat. I love good venison. Oh my God, I love venison. You get the back straps and prepare them right. Oh man, that's good. That's good eating.
My favorite is venison roast.
Venison roast is good.
Mm-hmm.
I like summer sausage made out of venison.
Mm-hmm.
We would take these flank steaks and then meat tenderize the living crap out of them, then roll them in eggs and then in crackers, and then crumbled up crackers, and fry them. Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
Yep, had them that way too. That's my ex-husband's favorite way was the steaks.
Yeah, I grew up on those. TFE says my family makes the best hand-stripped, hand-seasoned jerky. It's known all across the country between hunting guides. I've gained 5 pounds on jerky. I love good beef jerky, and that sounds awesome. I would love to try it. Down at Silver Dollar City here, just down by Branson, Missouri, they have a jerky store where you can just select however much you want of different jerkies. They've got ostrich and buffalo and emu and elk, and they had jerky for stuff I didn't even know you could make jerky out of, like alligator jerky. Hell yeah, I'll try some alligator jerky.
There used to be a butcher shop in my hometown where they sold all kinds of jerky and wild game ground meat, and I used to like to go there after the divorce, so I didn't have to ask a hunter for anything.
I do love good beef jerky. Every time we go to Silver Dollar City, I've got to go into that jerky shop and drop $20 pretty much guaranteed. I'm coming out of there with a bag of 6 or 7 different types of jerky. Bobfoot says, "Wow, 16-hour shift. I feel like I'm dying after 8. When I was working as the security supervisor for the hospital, when I was a deputy still then, it was nothing uncommon at all to work 16-hour shifts. And it wasn't just me. It was a lot of us, just because we were so short-staffed. Let's see. Irene says, "Wild hogs have really become a problem for Texas and Louisiana." Yeah, my buddy Kerry Davis, pocket doc that runs Dark Angel Medical, he wants to get a bunch of us together and go down to Texas and go hog hunting. And I would really like to do that. Going hunting with Kerry would be a hoot and a half. This one's for you, Neoma.
Any big plans coming up on What If It's True or Dixie Cryptid? Yes, I'm actually preparing an episode for What If It's True. Hopefully
Awesome.
Get it to Cam tomorrow. And he just put out a really good episode on.
I listened to it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Sadly, I haven't, but my sister listened to it and told me it was really great. So now I feel bad, but I've just been swamped. I took 3 days off last week to catch up on housework, and my house was so dirty it took 3 days. And now I'm paying for it desperately. So, but I'm plan on being done editing and recording tomorrow. 2 different things to send to Cam. One of them is finally going to be your prelude,
Woohoo.
And Cam actually drove up to my house over the weekend to help me with the issues that I had with my recording unit. So I was excited about that. So be looking for fun stuff. They're coming up. And Cam promised me that if I get my book done, he's going to do a Bigfoot conference with me. So with me and DA, but I have to get the book done. So I need to really be concentrating on that too. It just feels like, I don't know about how you do it, DA, with all the things you do. I am just swamped with work right now.
Well, sometimes life gets in the way of writing, and sometimes writing gets in the way of life. I mean,
yeah,
it just depends on what you've got to focus on at that time. And, it's not everybody that can sit down and bang out a book in 2 weeks. Stephen King's got a punishing writing schedule. Some weeks I can write 6 out of 7 days, and then some weeks I'll sit down at the keyboard and stare at it blankly for 2.5 hours and finally give up and go watch television because nothing's coming out. And unfortunately that happens, but it is what it is. Lewis says venison's the best. We took some one time outdoor Joshua Tree. That's out there by 29 Palms. That night we were barbecuing. We were getting all kinds of weird noises trying to get into our camp. I slept with my 44 next to me. Don't blame me there. A lot of stories of deer hunters losing their kills to Bigfoot. And I had that happen to me. And that's what I, to this day, believe took my deer. Lewis says, try to get some snap and turtle jerky. That was pretty good. I've had snap and turtle. It is good. Bob Foot says, nothing better than fly fishing and listening to Dixie videos or podcasts.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing.
Says, deer jerky and buffalo are my favorite. Used to work with the native Indians on iron for $20 per pound. That's awesome. There's another one I missed up here. TFE says, DA, I'll email you, get your address and send you some. You'll be addicted. Heck yeah. Send away. I will definitely, I will never turn down free jerky. I love deer jerky. Deer jerky is fantastic. I've got a buddy that lives out near Ava, Missouri, down in an area that they call Booger County because it's really, really creepy down there. But he makes really good deer jerky. And a guy I used to work with at Greene County used to make teriyaki deer jerky, and it was pretty fantastic.
Cool.
I spoke to Cam. Well, when we texted back and forth for a bit, and it looks like I may actually be helping out with some of the narrations too. So I'm going to get with you and find a couple of things for me to throw into narration, and I've got to figure out how to do the editing because I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out, I suppose.
Yeah, it's easy. Cam told me that he talked to you about it, so I'm excited to see that come up.
I would definitely look forward to doing it. Lenita says, went to South Dakota and ate a lot of bison. Delicious. Went through Missouri. There used to be a place out here, ironically near Buffalo, Missouri, that raised buffalo, and you could get bison out there quite often. There's still a few places around here, and there was a guy outside of Lebanon that raised beefalo, which, if you're not familiar with that, that's a crossbreed between a buffalo bull and usually a Angus female. Yeah. And the beefalo is really, really good. It's much leaner than regular beef, and it's so flavorful.
There's only actually one pure buffalo herd or bison herd in the United States left in the world, and that's in Yellowstone National Park. All
and
buffalo.
It's getting pretty big.
Yeah. And the Bigfoot are paying attention to it.
I bet they are. I've seen that one video. Missouri reintroduced elk. Elk used to be native to Missouri years and years and years ago, but they got all hunted out. But they reintroduced elk down near Eminence, Missouri. Released a whole bunch of them. I want to say 15 years ago. It was probably in the mid to early 2000s when they released them. Well, they didn't expect them to take off the way they took off. And elk are a big animal. The local farmers down there complain that they just basically plow through fences, and they'll shoulder their way into their herds and eat the food they put out for cattle. So the farmers down there don't like the elk. I mean, the elk are become kind of problematic, but the numbers have grown to the point that they're talking about doing a limited lottery for elk hunts coming up soon. And I would love to be able to get a tag to hunt elk in Missouri, because I do love me some elk. Elk is elk is so good. It's such a good meat.
They tried to reintroduce elk into Kentucky. Dogman got bigger.
I bet they did. That's a lot of meat. I mean,
Yeah.
if you could hunt one elk, get one elk a year, you could feed a family of 4 for most of that year off that one elk. That is a lot of meat. Northwoods Cryptid says, DEA, if you ever make it to this area, bring a big cooler to take home a bunch of jerky and other stuff. I might make the trip just for that. Shoot me an email. I'm a full-time writer. I can take off.
DA, I'm going to pop out and back in again. I'm
Okay.
having issues.
Okay. Lewis says, Ralph's Market down here sells buffalo meat at $6 a pound. There's a store here in town called Harder House that sometimes has buffalo meat. I don't think it's something they carry all the time. But Steve Wildman, who's on here on Saturday nights, he makes bison chili with that, and it's really, he makes a really good chili. No offense, Steve, but I like my chili better because it's mine and it's my recipe. But I want to do bison chili one of these nights. I've made a lot of venison chili when it usually comes out really good. Me and a buddy of mine made black bear chili one night, and it was fantastic. But the problem is bear meat is so greasy. Every time you would go over to get a bowl of the chili, we had a bowl set next to it, a big bowl. You would take the ladle and skim off all the fat that had come to the surface, the grease, and dump it in that other bowl. Then you get your chili, and you'd come back a couple minutes later, and there'd be more at the top. It's a very greasy meat, but it's very flavorful.
I'm not a fan of it.
Not a fan of bear?
Yeah, I just don't like the taste of it.
I kind of like it. And if I lived someplace like Wyoming or Montana, I would probably try to supplement the family diet with black bear, especially in the wintertime, because that extra grease really helps keep you warm in the wintertime. Your body burns that for fuel. So I would probably have a lot more of it on hand if I lived up in an area like that. But you've got to eat a heartier diet in those colder climates like that, because your body needs it for fuel.
Yeah.
Bob Foot says, they say they aren't, but it's obvious they're trying to bring elk back into California, have been having more and more encounters. They could just be expanding into the area, but there are huge elk populations in Colorado all the way up through Wyoming and Montana, just massive herds. And if you watch the herd migrations, you will see that Bigfoot sightings correspond with the movement of those elk.
Wow. Yeah.
Richie Evans says Kentucky has elk now for 3 years, I believe.
I was only kidding.
TFB says last year Big Shop was open. We purchased a 480 elk, had a 500 Boone and Crockett bull come through.
Wow.
Irene says buffalo is really good smoked. Lewis says there's an elk sanctuary. Did you allow hunting? Hunting is by lottery only. Yeah, when they start getting the bigger populations, they have to do that. My buddy James Maccabee, who used to live in Red Bluff, California, lived on his grandfather's huge farm and would sometimes shoot bear, mountain lions, and even bobcats, and they cooked all of it. They just dig a hole in the ground and throw in firewood. Oh, it's only showing part of that. Throwing firewood, let it burn down a sheet of metal, put the dressed meat in it, put another piece of metal over it, and cook it up. A lot of the natives used to do that. They'd get the coals real hot in a pit, and then once the fire had burned down, it was just coals. They'd put down a layer of rocks, and then sometimes they would put like thick leaves over it, and then lay the meat out on the rocks and cover it over and let it cook that way. There's actually a method for cooking meat directly on the coals itself. I've never done it. I've seen it done. I've seen it done in videos. I've never got to taste it. There's a guy whose videos I like to watch called Cowboy Kent Rollins, and he does cowboy recipes, and he's got some pretty fantastic recipes. A lot of them I'm going to be trying very soon. But he did a one on just cooking straight on caveman style, straight on the coals, and it looked really, really good. I would like to try that. Richie says ostrich meat is good. There, I clicked the wrong one. Ostrich meat is yummy too. 97% lean meat. You can cook it like a steak, like steak thick. That sounds pretty good. I would definitely try it. Lewis Norrie says that's why Mammoth Mountain up by Bishop, there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings up in that area. So they're after the elk that stay in the sanctuary. Yeah, exactly. Those big ungulate species from the moose on down are definitely prey species for a large primate. Mrs. Chef Yoda says, I like Cowboy too. I guess she knows Cowboy Kent Rollins. He just dropped another video today on making chili dogs on the fire, and it looked pretty dang good, so I may have to try that. Although I disagree with his choice of hot dogs. I want something with a little more meat to it and a little more snap to the casing. TFE says, pit barbecue. We have a pit that'll hold 800 beef for 42. Good God. Man, I'm coming to your next barbecue.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I'm
of people
bringing the Sweet Baby Rays by the case.
And I won't even have to be tied to a tree.
Yeah, the Sweet Baby Rays ain't for you. You ain't putting it on you. It's for the food. You can have some, but you ain't wearing it. Richie says Richie sounds good, but afterwards you don't get the urge to bury your head in the sand. Irene says wolves follow the herds. That's predator behavior, and if you look, especially in Colorado, it's one of the places I've seen it most. Where the herd goes, that's where the sightings go on Bigfoot. And I would definitely say if we can find, because I know that the conservation agencies of every state monitor herd populations and the movements within the state. If we could get access to those, we could pinpoint where the Sasquatch are going to be, guaranteed. Patty says, now I'm hungry. Well, I don't blame you. I'm getting there myself.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Patty. Thank you for popping in. This is Chef Yoda says, lots of great cooking ideas. Oh, yeah. You know, we got off on a tangent talking about Dogman. Now we're off talking about food.
I know, right?
We kind of forgot the direction of the show, but, you know, it chose its own way, I suppose. Having a good time just talking about that.
I just heard another voice, but did the Cardinals win or something? Maybe that's the laughter.
You might have heard my boys, my son or my wife yelling because they're both watching the Cardinals play.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Because I just heard it again.
Buffett says, my grandmother makes the best jalapeno smoked salmon. I don't care for salmon, but that sounds pretty good. I would probably try that. And Louis Noriega says, Farmer John brand of hot dogs makes the best for barbecuing, and a sausage dog is pretty good also. Yeah, I like to get at Sam's Club. They have these big, and it's the makers brand of Sam's at Sam's Club. They make these they come in a package of 12, and they're about that big around, and they're the length of a regular hot dog, but about twice the diameter. And I like grilling those things because they get such a great snap to the casing, and they're good with everything I've put on them. I'm going to have to try the chili, though. I'm going to definitely try that.
What do you usually put on a hot dog?
Me, I like fresh chopped onions, diced jalapenos, and spicy brown mustard.
Do you have a special brand of spicy brown mustard that you like?
Just whatever's on sale at Walmart. I'm not a mustard snob.
I'm going to send you some that'll make you a mustard snob.
Really? Well, that sounds awesome. I do like a good spicy mustard.
It's called Bogey's.
Like me some mustard and biscuits.
I find when I eat mustard, it makes me kind of funny.
Reckon I got no reason to kill nobody.
Some people calls it a Kaiser blade. No, some people, what do they call it? He calls it a Kaiser blade.
Some people calls it a sling blade. I call it a Kaiser blade.
Yeah.
Better send an ambulance. That second shot pretty near took his head clean off. I love that movie.
Me too.
TFE
I watch that weekly.
Oh, yeah, it's such a great movie. That's like my favorite Billy Bob Thornton movie.
Mm,
He's a funny actor. He's good. I love him in a lot of stuff, but that Sling Blade is just the best.
he wrote that, didn't he?
Yeah, wrote, starred, and directed it. He won multiple Oscars for it too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
TFE says Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, 4th, weddings, and family reunions. So I'll send you all an invite. Hell yeah!
that.
Mrs. Chef Yoda says hot dog toppings, chili and Tabasco sauce with some cheese. That sounds pretty good.
I like, God forgive me for being so close to Chicago when I was being raised, but I like ketchup, mustard, onion, relish, sauerkraut, chili, and cheese on mine.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, there's not much hot dog when you're done.
2 nights ago, like 1 o'clock in the morning, I just got the urge to cook, and I went in and made my spaghetti sauce from scratch that I make, and got the big meatballs in it, and it came out really good. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. We were eating spaghetti. My wife's like, "What possessed you to decide to want to cook spaghetti at 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock in the morning?" I don't know. Just suddenly had a craving.
I used to do that, but I haven't been high in years. Sorry. Boji's Mustard made toothaking a mustard snob too. I'm telling you, it's the best. They make it in my hometown.
It sounds good.
It's amazing.
Northwood says, I like the flavor spices, but my stomach can't handle the stuff like it did when I was 20. I lived in New Mexico for a while as a kid, and I ate so much spicy food, I'm pretty sure I gave myself an ulcer. So for years, I couldn't eat anything spicy. But like in my early 30s, one time we were at a Mexican restaurant, and I would always have to like, no, I can't eat that. My wife was eating this salsa, and she kept saying how hot it was, and I'm like, screw it, I'm going to try it and see how it was. And I took a big old chip full and popped it in my mouth and went to chew it. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of spicy, because it was, wasn't anything like the stuff we used to get in New Mexico. And from after that, man, I just got the taste back, and I spice the hell out of everything anymore. I got a couple of really big poblano peppers on the table right now. I'm going to throw on the grill tomorrow, and those are going to be so good and chili.
I like those stuffed. I like them stuffed.
Poblanos?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Poblano's got a good flavor.
Mm-hmm. But I like, what was I going to say? Oh, I spice everything. I literally put a dash of cayenne pepper seasoning in everything I cook. It doesn't necessarily, you can't necessarily taste it, but you will notice that it's missing.
My secret ingredient that I put in almost everything I cook, I mean, not like mac and cheese or stuff like that, but if I make hamburger helper, if I make spaghetti sauce, if I make just about anything, hamburgers on the grill, Tony Chachere's.
Really?
Tony Chachere's all the time. I think I got 3 cans of it in the kitchen right now.
I cook a lot with Slap Your Mama. I love that stuff too.
Tony Chachere's just has a really good kick to it. I like it. TFE says, I'm serious about it. I have a lot of family in the Springfield Bolivar area who make a trek, so why not? You'll love this area. Heck yeah, I'd love to check it out. Lewis says, my mom used to make the best salsa out of jalapeno serrano. That was the best. That sounds really good. I love homemade salsa. Tell you who makes a really good salsa is my buddy Matt Roper, the guy from All Tower Media. Matt every year used to make his own salsa fresh. Grew the tomatoes and stuff. I'm hoping he does that again this season, because his salsa is super good. I would put that stuff on breakfast cereal. It was so damn good.
Oh, Irene, I love eclairs. I really love eclairs. I can eat those until I'm sick. They are my favorite.
This is cayenne, the truth. Yeah, cayenne pepper. That's one of the main ingredients of Tony Chachere's, is why I love it. Sal Paso says fried pickles with ranch dressing is the bomb. Love it. There's a place here in town. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's a chicken place. Oh, it's called Hot Cluckers. Yeah, it's called Hot Cluckers, and they make the best fried pickles. They are freaking amazing. But they have the degrees of heat are like they're really weird. They're like, well, like one of them is like Nancy. It's like no heat, and then it's like one cluck, two clucks, and the other one is Hot Mother Clucker. And I'm telling you, if you get to that one, oh my God, you have no taste buds left because the first level will set my butt on fire. I don't know what they put on those chicken, but oh my God, it is hot. I can't imagine eating the upper end. My son's done it. I don't know. That kid's got a cast iron stomach, but he was also chugging milk like it was going out of style after.
Yeah, it doesn't count if you drink milk or eat bread with it because that kills it.
I'm not the one that ate the spicy. That was him, but he particularly regretted it the following day when
I bet he did.
Yeah, when it burnt coming back out.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing about spicy food. It gets you twice.
Yeah. Cookies and chocolate milk sounds good. Cookies and milk always sounds good. Josh says DAX food. That's hilarious.
Yeah, we've turned into a food show suddenly. That's so sad. But we don't claim to stay on topic.
That's true.
Yeah, we only claim to offer one. I can't even say those words.
Lewis, who's that directed at? Because if you want to send me some salsa, I'll hook you up. I'll get you my address. Chef Yoda says, set my butt on fire. I'm not sure how to pronounce these. Orale salsa fresca. I don't know. Mucho sabor caliente. Sounds like something that was really hot.
Caliente is hot, yeah.
Caliente is hot. I know that one.
Yeah.
Mucho means a lot, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Ring of Fire. Yeah. That's pretty much
Keep
what
an ice
it
bucket
is.
next to the toilet. You're going to need it.
Sit on an ice ring.
Our shows only have one track. It's called The Derail.
That's what you should call the show, The Derail, because it's what happens.
Yeah, pretty much. That's hilarious. Should we try to get in another story or two?
Oh, let's go for one more.
Okay.
It's your turn. It's yours.
My turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to bring up a couple pictures and show this one off. This is an interior shot. Another side of the interior. And this is the front. The place is called the Landers Theater here in Springfield. If you look it up, you'll find a lot of the history of it. It was built sometime in the early 1900s. I don't remember the exact year it was built. It's said to be haunted by a vaudeville stagehand who hung himself from the rigging above the stage, and his ghost is seen walking through the catwalks of the theater. People have also reported seeing a man on one of the fourth floor windows of the building. The building's listed in the National Register of Historic Places, but up in the fourth floor, they've seen a man looking out the window. The tall man with long blonde hair is never seen inside the building, only from the outside on the street below. The apparition is most often seen as a janitor who died during a fire in the theater. According to reports, the old janitor is often seen up in the balcony by actors on the stage. Perhaps the most eerie report of the sounds of a mother comforting a crying child inside the theater. When people search for the pair to offer help, no one is to be found. They do host ghost tours, but that's not the creepiest story I've ever heard out of there. And this one came to me secondhand from the guy who knew the guy. But apparently in the early 80s, they were doing a rehearsal and they heard people talking in the basement area. And they thought that perhaps, some homeless guys had snuck down in there or found a way inside, and they were afraid that somebody had snuck in the building. So they called the Springfield Police Department, and they dispatched 2 officers. Well, the officers go in the building, and they were like looking around and didn't see any sign of movement. So they said, well, we're going to just check the whole thing. one of the guys says, "You go to the top floor and work your way down. I'll go to the basement and work my way up." Well, the guy who went down in the basement, he was down there for just a few minutes and came running back out. Would not tell anybody what he saw and quit the police department the next day.
Wow.
Would not go back in that building. He would never tell anybody what he saw in that basement. But even the guy's still alive. To this day, will not go back in that building. Won't set foot in it. So I don't know what he saw, but I would like to do the ghost tour because they have ghost tours there. It looks like they're going to be starting back ghost tours back up in the first part of October. The groups will be escorted through the dark hallways and secret spaces that have been hidden from the general public for decades. Experience the real-life encounters and bone-chilling past of the historic Landers Theater. I want to do it, and I want to go in the basement. Who wants to go with me? You go? Awesome.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Okay. Go back to the picture for a second.
Of the front or the interior?
The front. On the overhang there.
Uh-huh.
Count those dots across the widely spaced ones.
13.
Isn't that odd?
That is odd.
That usually isn't something that architects will do.
That is really kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look above the windows up there, it looks like those are faces carved into the edifice.
Yeah, those are cool faces.
Yeah.
It actually almost looks like the guy has like his hands on both sides of his face, like, oh my God.
It's a neat building. It's up near the square.
Yeah.
And the Springfield Square is it's historically known for something else. Apparently, back in the 1800s, Wild Bill Hickok killed a guy named Dave Tutt on the square of Springfield. The day before, they'd been playing cards, and Hickok didn't have enough money to cover the bet. He was losing, so he gave the guy his grandfather's watch. He said, "Hang on to that. I'll give you the money tomorrow. But I don't want you don't want you waving that watch in public that belonged to my grandfather. I don't want people to think I can't cover my bets." So what does Tut do? He goes around waving the watch, telling people about having Wild Bill Hickok's watch. Well, Hickok got mad and said, "If I see you with that, there's going to be trouble." So Tut called some of his buddies, and they were gonna gun down Wild Bill Hickok. Well, we know that didn't happen because he died in Deadwood. But Hickok walked out on the square of Springfield, and these were percussion cap pistols, not modern rifled barrels, percussion cap pistols. He saw Tut. Tut went for his guns. Wild Bill drew and shot him through the heart at over 50 yards with a percussion cap pistol, then spun around and fired on his buddies.
Wow.
Yeah, I can take you right to Dave Tutt's grave. It's got the aces and eights on his tombstone. I've been to the grave. Yeah. It's just over by MSU campus. But there's a lot of history in Springfield. Wild Bill Hickok in the old West tradition of shooting people in the open square, killed Dave Tutt at 50 meters, which is an unheard of shot. I would be lucky to hit somebody with 50 meters with a Glock, and that's with modern sights and modern riflings on the barrels. But a smoothbore percussion cap pistol, that's unheard of. That's unbelievable, that the accuracy that he, I would love to have seen that gunfight.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think we're behind a few.
Yeah.
Mrs. Chef Yoda says, "Not me. I've seen my share of ghosts."
Yeah.
TFV says, "Dothan, not far from Rucker. I spent a bit in Enterprise." Josh says, "Unless the Temple to Gozer." Nice Ghostbusters reference, Josh. And then the architects will do all kinds of screwy things.
Yeah.
Richie says, "South Park, the funny as hell. My girlfriend's son is playing it."
Oh, the game.
Yeah. Dresden says he trained for it. Yeah, Hickok fired those guns every day just to practice with them, and yeah, he was an unbelievably good shot. Wissa says, you know why Bigfoot is safe from people? Because you think they are apes. Sad but not funny. I don't think all of them are. I think they're like when we did the show about the different types. I think there are well-accommodated types, but I think there are some that are very much animals, like the Gugway. I don't think there's much redeeming about them, though, especially the ones up in farther north, like the ones in Alaska. I don't think they're the friendly type. I don't think they're the well-accommodated type. I think they are the type that eat people. And I think that explains a good deal of the disappearances, especially around the Port Chatham area. So, yeah, I would agree that some Bigfoot are probably relic hominids of some sort and certainly possess intelligence, but I wouldn't say all of them are.
I would agree with you. Okay. I'm looking for anything that we missed.
Oh, this is probably a good moment to say, if you guys take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon so you get updates when we go live, because there probably will be some coming shows that where we go live maybe without warning, because I'm planning on do a few impromptu things here, and especially if I can get access to places like the Pythian Castle, I'm gonna be trying to do something like that with. Just do a Facebook, just go live from my phone, because I can stream to restream from my phone. So I'm planning on doing some stuff like that. So hit the like and subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications when we do random crap like that. And if you haven't had a chance to swing by the Patreon, it's patreon.com/DARobertsAuthor. The Patreon helps us do stuff like that, and go places to shoot film, and helps do advertisement for the books. It really helps in a lot of ways. So appreciate you guys checking that out. And there's a lot of ways you can become involved in the future of the books. In fact, right now on our Discord server for the patrons, they're in the process of helping name several of the books, which is going to be very helpful. We're also going to be doing discussions on covers, and actually having discussions on plotting in future books. So there's a lot you can get involved in through the Patreon. So if you don't mind, check that out. Lewis says, when we lived in Hay Street, when I had my friend stay over, one said that my sister walked into the front door, opened the door and closed it. Another friend I woke up in the morning, and he was sitting up on the couch with a loaded shotgun and told me he's not staying here again. My sons did not like going to visit grandma on that house. They said something was there they could see, and that thing would appear to my boys, and they hate it. It's going there would make them cry. Well, kids see things sometimes adults don't see.
Yes. Kids see things that adults won't see.
Or refuse to believe in. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the logical, rational mind overrides the natural order of things. I mean, we're constantly told, "Oh, that's not real. That's not real." And I think at a certain point we just learn to ignore it. So and kids have not had that experience yet. So I think kids are very susceptible to things like that we may not be able to see. Owissa says, perhaps it's their culture that is not understood. Well, I have to go back to work. Night all. Good night, Owissa. Thank you for coming in.
Good night.
Dresden says, speaking of Ghostbusters, Saving the Day, that was a good song. Lewis says, my sister did not live there. Irene says, good night, Owissa. Have a safe night at work. Sal Paso says, yes, DA and Olds rarely believe them. Yeah. Well, we've had some times when my children would tell us they saw something, and my wife, like I said, she's very sensitive to things like that. She always believed the kids, and we always checked it out. And I found out that I was the source of childhood trauma inadvertently for my sons here just recently. We bought one year for Christmas. We bought all three of the boys. It's like a 3.5 foot tall Superman doll, and I still have one of them. The boys got rid of them, but I still have one of them over here behind the green screen. And it's posable. You can move the arms and legs. He's got the cape and everything, and his head articulates up and down, and he's good sized. Well, I would go into the boys' bedroom and tuck them in and make sure they were covered up, and they were already asleep. And I would look over, and the Superman would be standing in the corner where they always had him, but the head was turned around backwards. So I would always turn it back around. I didn't think anything of it. Well, apparently that was terrifying the boys because before they went to sleep, they turned it backwards, and when they woke up, it was sleeping. So they thought those things were haunted, and all the time it was just me, and I had no clue. I honestly felt kind of bad about it, but at the same time, it's hilarious.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to turn the show to parenting advice.
So I told my son, my middle son, I said, well, wait till you're asleep one of these nights and stand that in the hallway outside your door. He said, I swear to God, Dad, I will get your shotgun and blow that thing apart.
Oh, I love it when we damage our children.
Oh, yes, Werewolf's heading out for the night. Werewolf, thank you, man. Thank you for being here. It sounds as your kids are going to need therapy. Yeah, but it would be all my fault, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that, he scarred them for life. Yeah, I probably did. I honestly had no idea. I would just go in and make sure the boys were tucked in, and I'd look over and I'm like, that's weird. Why is that looking at the wall? And I'd turn it around, and they'd get it for school the next day and be like, but they never told me. I mean, they didn't tell me that they thought the thing was haunted until like 6 months ago. And I'm like, that might have been me.
Oh, gosh, that's funny. That is hilarious.
So you essentially bought them a Friday the 13th TV series dummy doll, pretty much. But it was all my own doing, but unbeknownst to me. TFE says, "Wish my parents would have simply listened. Believe it or not, I hear anything my kids want to say, especially when it pertains to odd situations. It pays to. I mean, there are weird things that go on in this world, and sometimes we just don't notice. And kids notice a lot of stuff. And I tell you another thing we pay attention to is the behavior of animals.
Mm-hmm.
Harley is the litmus test. Oh, like I said, the other day, I don't know if any of you were listening the other day, but I was talking about seeing eye shine at the back of my fence, like 8-9 feet off the ground. More often than not, I'll take the dog out at 2-3 o'clock in the morning because I'm a night owl. I stay up really late. And if he just takes off, because there's usually rabbits bedded down by the fence at the back because there's a lot of bushes, like vines along the fence row. So the rabbits hide back there. And he always makes a beeline for the back so he can chase the rabbits around the yard. But if I open the door and there's a big oak tree just like 10 feet off my back porch, and if I open the back door and he goes to that oak tree and stops, I know something's out there, and I start looking around. I don't know what it is. I've caught eye shine several times, but my camera's not good enough to film it. But my big telephoto lens gets here tomorrow, and that mounts to my cell phone camera. And I'm going to go out there and shine some bright flashlights around and see if I can capture it. I don't know what it is. It may have moved on by now. I don't know. But my plan is to try to get some pictures of that eye shine. And we'll see. We'll see what it is.
Yeah, we'll see. At our house, it was the other way around. My kids never listened to me. Of course, it's probably a good thing it kept them from being too scarred.
Probably right. I know the same feeling.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't I used to tell the boys stories before they went to bed at night, but I never told them creepy stories. It's probably a good thing I didn't tell them some of the stories I write. Oh, it says, yes, my dog Duchess, she was sitting next to me, relaxing, doing the wiener dog thing, and did something suddenly wakes her up, and she sees something walk across the dining room, and she's watching it, going up and down, watching it all the way into the kitchen. Yeah, if a dog sees something, there's something there. I firmly believe it, because I don't think dogs are just messing with us. They're like, hey, I bet you I can scare him. Watch this.
So that's the cat.
That's more of a cat thing.
Yeah.
I don't trust cats. Cats are sneaky.
No, yeah. I had a cat for 18 years, and he'd do that, and I'd be like, yeah, I know what you're doing. You're playing with me.
You're just messing with me.
Yeah, he was that kind of cat. His name was Floyd, and he liked to play head games. But if the dog did that, I'd be a different story. I'd believe the dog. Much more trustworthy.
Patty tells me to stay away from the oak tree. If Harley stops at the oak tree, that's as far as I'm going. I have not felt the urge to go out and confront whatever's watching me from the back fence, because the house directly behind me is empty. It's been empty for well over a year, and it's always dark back there because there's no street lights or anything. And my property line butts right up against the property line of the house behind me, and one neighbor on one side has privacy fence, and then the rest of the fence is covered with these thick vines, and they're probably, I don't know, they stick up off the top of the fence several feet. They're probably 8 feet tall in that ballpark. And the eye shine I've seen has been above the vines on that back fence. And you can go back and grab those vines and just push them down. I mean, they're kind of tangled together, but if anything of any weight, I mean, if it was an owl, it would collapse the vines, because an owl is not a light bird. It's a good sized bird of prey. So I know it's not an owl. I don't know what it is. I mean, hopefully I'll find out really soon.
Yeah, get good cover or get good pictures and drop the camera in a convenient location.
Yeah, well, the neighbors will call the cops because they'll hear the gunshots.
Yeah, well, that'll help.
Josh says cats walk in other dimensions. I don't trust them either. Yeah, it's just Wilson watching you over the fence. Yeah, if Wilson's 8.5, 9 feet tall and his eyes glow.
Oh, hey, that's a cool looking Wilson.
Yeah. Patty says, cats and spiders, huh, Josh? Facebook user says, where are you, DA? Springfield, Missouri. I am on the east side of Springfield. Outfit says, oh my God, cats are from the devil itself. I have so many cats waking me up at night. Cats just, I've never been a cat fan. Josh says, Patty, shh. My home in Springfield. I would rather not say on the air. We'll just say I'm on the east side of Springfield. Dresden says cats are not supernatural; they're simply insane. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
TFE says DAO. I'm envious. What kind and how many millimeters? What body are you mounting it on? Had an N80 35 millimeter mounted on a 300 long lens at one point. I don't have a fancy camera. I bought one of those attachments that clips to the phone and has a 100 times magnifier that goes on my cell phone camera. I would love to have, like a good Canon or a really nice camera. That's a future project. When I'm making better money. Right now we're paying. We're at one of those positions where we've got a little bit of money left at the end of the month, not month left at the end of the money. So we can do a little bit once in a while, but we're not in a position where I can buy expensive camera equipment. But one of these days, that's going to be something I want to invest in. Irene says, I had a timber shepherd let you know real quick if something was around.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to hit that.
That's all right. Wolf blood him would make him more wolf than dog when it was needed. Facebook user says 338 Lapua. Yeah, they'll probably frown on that in town. I'm just taking a 9mm out there. Patty says, Josh, not on a shower curtain, please.
Yeah, Josh wants to do a T-shirt of a Bigfoot or Dogman standing over a fence saying, Heidi-O. That's what I had clicked on, and then I was trying to get rid of it, and I inadvertently deleted yours.
Oh, that's all right. Bobbit says, doer alike, this person feeds and loves me. They must be God. Cats are like, dogs are like, this person feeds and loves me. They must be God. Cats are like, this person feeds and loves me. I must be God. Yeah.
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 The dog diary versus the cat diary. Diary. Woke up at 6 o'clock. My master fed me. Best day ever. An hour later, my master took me outside. Best day ever. Then my master left. Saddest moment ever. Then he came home. Best day ever. Cat diary. Day number 536 of my captivity. That's the difference between a dog and a cat. My sister and I agree that, and all these people who say they don't like cats are not going to like me very well, but we agree that she has the personality of a dog and I have the personality of a cat. So, yeah.
Do you chase red dots?
I will, yeah, if you flash them around the room. I just sat here and counted 13 dots on a building. What do you think?
Good point. Lewis says Costco sometimes has a good camera sales on 35 millimeter with 2 or 3 lenses in the kit. I will monitor that. We just got our first Costco here in Springfield. We've had Sam's Club membership forever, but the wife and I were just talking, I think it was yesterday, about going over to Costco and getting a membership there and kind of doing a price comparison to see which one we like better. But I'll check that out. Like I said, we just opened like last month.
Will, DA, I'm getting a little punch drunk here.
Getting tired?
I am.
Well, we are at the 3-hour mark, so it's probably a good time to start wrapping up. Folks, remember Saturday night to join into DAX Machina, because we are going to have the one and only Jonathan Mayberry on the show to talk about his books. And the man's had a Netflix series and done comic books and writes horror and sci-fi, and the dude's done it all. New York Times best-selling author, 5-time Bram Stoker Award winner. Yeah, he's a hell of an author. He's going to be on the show. I'm not sure how long we're going to have him. Last time he was on the show, he was only able to stay about an hour and a half. Hoping he'll be able to stay a little bit longer. So we'll get him to talking about his new books and talk about monsters, and maybe see if he's had any cryptid experiences. And he's a very interesting guy to talk to. The last time he was on the show, it was a good time. So I'm expecting the same for this one. It's going to be a good night. Facebook user says, did you mention the Ozarks howler? We didn't tell any howler stories, but we did kind of mention it at the beginning. But the Ozarks howler is going to be the subject, the main creature, so to speak, for Lakeview Man 3. Lakeview Man Beast of Blunk Road is in process now, and I'm pretty happy with the way that story is going. And I've had a couple of my alpha readers reading it, and I sent part of it to Neoma, and waiting to see what she thinks of it. And I'm pretty happy with the direction it's taken. So I think it's gonna surprise a few folks. You're gonna get to see some of the other characters shine a little bit that aren't necessarily the main characters that you see all the time. And I think Beast of Blunk Road is gonna be a little different. I think you're really gonna like it. And
Cool.
new friends will be made. Let's just put it that way.
Cool.
Bob Foote says, "All right, y'all be safe." Thank you, sir. Lenita says, getting sleepy. I'm pickling eggs, okra, and peaches tomorrow night. Y'all, love everyone. Thank you. I appreciate you guys being here. Facebook user says, woohoo. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. And if you have a chance, swing by the Patreon, check that out and see all the stuff we've got going on, because we really have a lot going on in the DA verse. And I would love to have you guys as part of it, because we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be naming new books, picking covers, helping discuss plots. There's going to be a lot of direct involvement that the patrons will be able to do to help shape the future of the DA verse and future shows and things like that.
Did you pop that up on the screen? The Patreon?
I should probably do that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Just swing by patreon.com/DA Roberts Author and check that out. I hope you guys will check that out and join the community there. We're doing a lot, and the patrons all have special access to the Discord server, and we're doing a lot of those conversations right now. We're actually already discussing the Clark solo project, coming up with a name for that, and we got some good ideas thrown in there, but love to hear you guys' input on that as well. And there are a bunch of books in the coming future that are going to need names that I'm bad with names. I like stress over titles of books, and it was actually Josh Jones said, "Hey, why don't you open it up for the patrons to help you figure out some of these titles?" I'm like, that is a hell of a good idea. Let's do that. Also, you'll receive discounts on discounts depending on the level of involvement with the Patreon community. You'll get discount levels on the merch store for items in the merchandise store, and we're getting new stuff all the time. Going to be doing some Halloween special stuff that'll only be there for the month of October that have to do with not only the show but Halloween themed, that kind of stuff. So you'll watch for a lot of new items coming. Some of them will only be there for a short time. But check out the patreon.com/DA Roberts Author. You can join the Discord at this link. I'll leave that up there for a minute real quick. I'll let everybody take a look at that. if you go to my website, which is daroberts.net, you can pretty much link to everything, the Facebook, the YouTube, the Discord, and the merchandise store. A lot of good stuff up there. So I hope you guys will check that out. If you guys remember the night we were laughing about Bigfoot and a Gugway. No, it was a Bigfoot and a Dogman stealing Will Gray Eagle's car and running for tacos. We have a get in the car, we're going for tacos shirt. That's pretty funny. Josh created that. I thought it was hilarious. And Adam did the logo. But we, like I said, we got a lot going on with the Patreon community, and I would love for you guys to be involved in that. And it really is going to help shape the future of the DA verse. We got a lot of stuff coming, a lot of books to write and produce in the next couple of years, and I hope you guys will be there for all of that, because it's going to be a hell of a ride. Neoma's already been involved in a lot of that. She's seen a glimpse of what we got coming. She's looking at some of the books as we're writing them now. Well, as I'm writing them now, but she's looking at the books now and has really become instrumental. She's going to be editing a lot of the future projects. I'm going to keep her busy for a while.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I got a lot in the pipeline. TFE says, I'll hit you up, DA, get you some jerky. Yeah, shoot me an email at daroberts@daroberts.net right there, and we'll work that out. That would be awesome. And I want to say that how much I appreciate you guys. This is just an awesome thing, to being able to hang out with you guys and talk. And we talk about crazy, creepy stuff, and then we talk about food and segue into Dogman. We never know which way the conversation is going to go, and it's so fun to hang out with you guys and laugh and talk and crack up and just have a good time. And I love hanging out with Neoma, because she's got the perfect sense of humor to complement mine. It's great to find a kindred spirit who is equally as weird. And we want to plug Dixie Cryptid and What If It's True? I will put up the links.
You can find us on Dixie Cryptid on YouTube. Cam is an amazing narrator. If you've never heard him, he tells a story like nobody can. We talk about Bigfoot. And we also have the What If It's True podcast, which ventures a little bit further out into other areas of interest, but we tell some really great stories on there. I've got an actual episode that I'm building right now that I'm hoping to get over to Cam tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing you over there if you want to hear a good story.
And they have awesome stories. They really do. Especially check out the Steve Lilly stories.
Yeah.
I love the Steve Lilly stories.
And DA's going to even do some guest narrating for us, which I think is really exciting.
I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Patty says, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Patty. You are awesome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. It's good to see you, Patty.
Dresden says, always picture Gray Eagle as Mike Glover. I can kind of see that. Yeah, I kind of see that. Sal says, good night, everyone. See you on Saturday. Awesome. Can't wait to see you there. Chef Yoda says, DA, what is the name of the website that talks about the different types of Dogman Bigfoot? There is it's called Bigfoot 411 does it to an extent. But if you want to watch some YouTube shows on it, go on YouTube to the Matt Squatch Presents channel, MATTSQUATCH, Matt Squatch. He does videos on the breakdown of the different types of Bigfoot, which we kind of expanded on in a previous show. And he does another one on 7 types of Dogmen, which is pretty fascinating. So I would check out Matt Squatch, but Bigfoot 411 is another good website for information. Definitely check those out. But I just want to say I appreciate you guys so much. Appreciate everybody being here. Neoma, you are the most awesome. I love working with you. This is a hoot and a half. I know we've got a very special anniversary coming up on Saturday. It is the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 incident. And I want to do a special thank you to all the men and women in uniform and everybody that not only reacted to that situation, but keep us safe on a daily basis. And I just hope that everybody in uniform out there, whatever uniform it is, whether it's EMS, law enforcement, corrections, military, whatever, you're putting your lives at risk to protect us and give us the homes and the freedoms that we enjoy. And I just want to thank all of y'all for that. And thank all of you for the guys that have been here with us. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. I've had a lot of family members under that folded flag. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I've had friends under that folded flag, and God bless all of them. And thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are the absolute best, and I will see you guys on Saturday. And hope to see you then. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?